truth all the time, but you cannot be completely accurate factually and allow people to say whatever they can say under the law. Because, again, the whole point of the First Amendment is so that the government cannot restrict your speech. That's it.
And it's really, and to a difficult degree that I think people on the left and the right struggle with, the ACLU, they warn you when you apply for a job there, hey, we fight for free speech, which means we have to defend some really horrible, offensive people who use bigoted language. That's a hard truth. I have a friend who wanted to apply for a job at the ACLU, and she goes, I don't think I can do it. But that's, they're acknowledging what the objective reality of the First Amendment is, and that is to protect some pretty offensive speech. That's why the First Amendment exists. We wouldn't need the First Amendment if we only allowed pleasant speech and speech that we agreed with.
And also, I've seen tons of people pointing out that they have other people impersonating them all over Twitter and nothing's being done about it. So they've been filing complaints in some cases for months and nothing's being done about people that are legitimately impersonating them, not making a joke, not clearly having fun at Elon's expense. And Twitter's done nothing about it. But the instant that it's about Elon, you're suspended. Your account is shut down. And you got to be able to apply the rules evenly across the board. You can't just say, well, you offended our dear leader, therefore you have to go.
And so people understand how this works. With the blue check mark, you had to send in a lot of personal information. Your name to prove that I am Amy Markscores or I am Kevin Wheeler. And then Twitter would verify that you are who you say you are. Now, you could do that even if your handle, meaning you're at Kevin Wheeler, even if it's not your name. For instance, Roberto Luongo, who is a goalie for the Vancouver Canucks. I think his Twitter handle was Strombone. That's right. So there's no way to know who that actually is unless you've gone through the verification process, which he did, and you know that that's him. Now, if anybody can pay $8 to get a blue check, that means anybody with any handle can claim to be Elon Musk, or they could claim to be, one of us, anybody, and pay $8, and that blue check mark would look the same for every single person claiming to be Elon Musk or whoever it may be.
Right. I mean, again, they have a verification process that's in place now that doesn't require you to pay to do it. And if they're going to use those same standards, fine, but that doesn't change anything because what do you have to provide? All you really have to provide is an email address that works and a website that shows you are who you say you are, right? A link to a website that's your bio or where your work can be found. Well, what's to stop a random person from just finding the place where my work can be found, picking my name, paying $8 and saying, oh, I'm Kevin.
Because
and now it's up to me to prove that they're not.
The whole point of the blue check mark was for more public figures to be able to say, this is actually me. This is my account. Because you could Google Michael Jackson or Mel Gibson or Ryan Reynolds, and there will be a gazillion handles of people pretending to be that person. But you know that Van City Reynolds, because he's from Vancouver, Ryan Reynolds, with the blue check mark, is the actual Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And then we have, and we'll wrap on this because we're going to talk a bit about the cards for a minute, but then you have there's video now that I saw over the weekend of him saying essentially that if you don't pay the $8, the algorithms suppress your tweets. So they're going to be further and further down. And I think the quote was, and this is a direct quote, you'll have to scroll really far to see unverified users. So again, so you talk about trying to fight against the idea of the blue check mark being elite, but you're making it so that it's even more of an elite thing, that if you don't have it, then you're much less likely to have any of your tweets seen.
Yeah, it's all very skeevy.
Yeah, not great. All right, coming up at the bottom of the hour, we got a bunch of things related to the election that we want to get into for tomorrow, including some of the comments from Dan Crenshaw from Texas over the course of the weekend. Next up, though, just a few bits and pieces, a bit of notes on the Cardinals. They finalized their coaching staff. Matt Holliday is the bench coach. And, of course, you have a new hitting coach. That's Turner Ward, a new pitching coach. We'll tell you all about that, but especially talk about Matt Holliday rejoining the Cardinals Major League team coming up on the show.
For everything online, it's Odyssey.com. Download the Odyssey app and listen to KMOX for all the news, sports, talk, and podcasts that move you. Odyssey, that's AUDACY.
Congress has authorized trillions in new spending, along with doubling the size of the IRS agency in just the last few months. Do you think that is by accident? No, it is with a purpose to go after small businesses, employees, and individuals who have not filed or paid their taxes. If this is you, don't panic, just call. Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm in St. Louis. Interest and penalties on your tax bill won't stop until you take control. Call me, Lance Drury. I'll tell you in advance an affordable fee, which includes costs and expenses that works for your business and family. Your first visit to the Lance Drury Law Firm is free and confidential, so you have nothing to lose. Call me today. Remember, if you have IRS issues, you have legal issues. You need an attorney. You need us, the Lance Drury Law Firm. Call me, Lance Drury, at 314-260-6120 or go to Lance, DRURY law.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Hi, this is Ken.
And Laurie Heisey of Heisey Advisory Group. We're dedicated to helping individuals and families work toward their financial goals.
Join us Sundays at 9:30 a.m. for Your Retirement Highway.
Investment advisory services by individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Plain talk from our true constitutional conservative voice, Mary Elizabeth Coleman.
We have to stop the crazy liberal agenda of defunding the police. We need more support for law enforcement. Give them the tools to stop violent crime, illegal immigration, and the cartels from flooding our state with their illegal drugs.
Mary Elizabeth Coleman opposes all taxpayer funding for illegal immigrants and will fight to cut state funding to cities that give sanctuary to illegal immigrants.
Biden's open border policy has brought fentanyl to our neighborhoods. Thousands of Missourians are dying as a result. Missouri should join the other states and send our National Guard troops to the border, if that's what it takes to keep our families safe.
True constitutional conservative Mary Elizabeth Coleman supports a Parents' Bill of Rights, is pro-jobs, A-rated by the NRA, and the only one in this state Senate race endorsed by Missouri Right to Life. Paid for by friends of Mary Elizabeth Coleman.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
The pain was so bad, it felt like I was walking on knife blades. It took my life away. And my doctor recommended that I go to Good Feet. I took about 4 steps and started to cry. It was the first time that I had no pain. I'm not an actor. I want people to know, whether you're young or old, these are life-changing. I've tried the rest. The best is Good Feet. I'm ready to rock and roll, man. Let's go to the ballpark. We're going to Monster Jams. We're going camping. My attitude's changed. I'm a happier man. I'm like a regular dad now. The kids have seen that change and that confidence in dad, and they like the new dad.
Call 314-317-9494 or visit one of our 2 locations on Olive, Catty Corner from TGI Fridays, or in Shiloh, Illinois, across from Deerbergs.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Individual results may vary. Consult your physician for medical conditions. Visit the website goodfeetstlewis.com. Come in and try the Good Feet feeling today. Comfort, energy, performance, and pain relief at the Good Feet store.
It's Miller Furniture's Veterans Day sale now through November 14th.
I'm Mark Miller, owner of Miller Furniture. Is your home ready for the holidays? With the largest selection of Amish-made kitchen and dining tables, you can save up to $1,000 and have it delivered in time for Thanksgiving dinner.
Right now, we have over $4 million of in-stock inventory on sale at our Belleville, Lake St. Louis, and Ellisville locations. Everything in all of our showrooms are available for immediate delivery.
Miller Furniture delivers comfort to you and your guest. Save $100 to $300 on twin, full, and queen-size sleepers from Flex Steel Industries.
Plus, get special financing options like 18 months of 0% financing with no minimum purchase.
How did you sleep last night? If it wasn't great, I'd like you to try a Chatham & Wells handcrafted mattress and save 25% on any size, any model.
Join us for our Veterans Day sale going on now through November 14th.
Family-owned Miller Furniture, your American-made furniture headquarters, now on both sides of the river.
Connect with KMOX on air, online, 1120 a.m., 98.7 FM, KMOX.com.
All right, 10:23 on the show. Coming up at 12:30, Matt Pauley's going to join us, the host of Sports Open Line here on KMOX, Cardinals pre- and post-game host as well. We'll get into the Cardinals' major league coaching staff being settled, and not a big surprise that this came right after the World Series. And the big story in all of it is Matt Holliday returning to the Cardinals bench, not obviously in a role as a player and not as a hitting coach, but as the bench coach. It was interesting. to hear his description too of his intrigue level with that particular job. He's done a lot of work with hitters. He was coaching hitters at Oklahoma State. His brother Josh is the head coach at Oklahoma State. His dad was the head coach there before, and his dad has had multiple Division I coaching jobs, both as a head coach and a pitching coach. Coaching and baseball, of course, are in the Holiday family. His son, Jackson, was just the number 1 pick in the draft. His other son, Ethan, is a college baseball player at Oklahoma State now. So, again, this is the family business, right?
I was
This is
going to
what
say,
he
are they
does.
like the first family of baseball?
I don't know.
Right now?
I don't know if I'd go that far, but they're definitely in the conversation. Yeah,
Seriously.
definitely in the conversation. I mean, this is what he's always done. And look, when you talk to a lot of major league players that play a long career like Matt Holliday did, one of the things that they miss out on a lot is time at home, right?
Mhm.
Something Adam Wainwright's talked about a lot. He talked about it with us, not this past time so much that he joined us, but the previous time during the season when he was talking about the decision to play and come back. Well, you're thinking about all the things that you're missing, right? You're missing recitals. You're going to miss school stuff because a lot of the year you're traveling, a lot of the year you're gone, and it just takes a lot of time to do these things. And it's going to be true for a guy that's a bench coach like Matt Holliday. But, and as he pointed out, there are all these different challenges that go involved with what you want to do with your life. Matt Holliday doesn't need to work.
Right.
He's made a lot of money. What he's doing is because it's what he loves. He doesn't have to say that. I mean, it's obvious. He made more money than anybody's going to need as a professional baseball player. It's clearly the challenge. It's the passion. It's what he loves to do. And it's what he's really good at. And having him back as the bench coach is exciting for a lot of people. And I think part of it is just emotion, right? Like we all liked Matt Holliday as a player, and baseball fans like, well, I know he was good, so that'll help. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
But the way that he goes about things, the way that he has, the way he was as a player, the way that he's been when it comes to developing his own kids and their careers, what he's done in college, he's put in the time, I guess is what I would say. It's not somebody that's using their credentials as a former player to get a job that they haven't really worked their way up to.
No, and just kind of going back to the fact that he doesn't need the money. He's obviously working for something that he's passionate about. He is a relatively young man. He's been retired now, and he's 42 years old. And when you think about it, it's not like these guys, when they retire from their playing days, are 65 and ready to hang them up. I mean, these are pretty young men who are retiring or who are done being on the field as a player. So you imagine that passion's still there, that energy to work and be there. What's interesting, my first thought is, man, I'm surprised because baseball is such a grind. If you're part of any organization, it is an absolute grind. And yet you and I were just talking about what we do if we won the Powerball. And you said, I think I'd coach.
For free. Yeah,
for free.
I would volunteer to coach for somebody.
Yeah. But that means, you have a passion for it. So maybe that helps explain, you know, these guys who are retired going, no, we love the sport. We want to work. Because my first thought is, man, that's quite a commitment for someone who doesn't have to do that.
No, it is, absolutely. But part of it is he's really close friends with Oliver Marmol.
Mhm.
They've known each other for a long time. They used to, when Matt Holliday was playing, going back to Ollie Marmol being a player in the Cardinals system, they've had a relationship for a long time. They used to both live in Jupiter in the offseason and spend time together. This is well before Ollie Marmol was on the radar as a potential manager at the major league level. So there's a long-standing relationship there. You have a guy that can add a number of different things. And, of course, one thing that's important to have between a bench coach and a manager is trust, right? Can that person tell you you're wrong about something? Can that person, add something to the table that you don't have? And certainly Holliday does when it comes to playing, right? Ollie didn't make it to the big leagues. Having somebody as your right-hand man that had a long career as a big leaguer can be a very helpful thing. That's what Skip Schumacher was last year, and obviously that made a good bit of difference. The Cardinals, by the way, also promoted Dusty Blake to be the pitching coach. Blake was in the system as kind of a coordinator position, kind of overseeing pitching development. He's an advanced guy, analytics guy, sounds like a biomechanical guy too. So they're definitely going in the modern direction on the pitching side. Turner Ward is the hitting coach now. He had been the assistant to Jeff Albert, but Ward has been a hitting coach at the major league level for years and has a long history with Paul Goldschmidt too. So those are the kind of the big hires, and there were others that kind of fall in with that. We'll explain all of that and get into it with Matt Pauley coming up at 12:30. Up next, going to shift our attention to Election Day tomorrow here on the show.
It's almost here, election night in St. Louis, and be sure to stay with KMOX. I'm Michael Calhoun with our continuous coverage alongside Megan Lynch, plus our KMOX reporters at all the big watch parties, and analysis from names like John Hancock, Michael Kelly, Shamed Dogan, and Braxton Payne. Missouri, Illinois results, the national perspective from CBS. Stream us in your ears while your eyes are obsessing over the results on those screens. It's Campaign 2022 tomorrow, beginning at 7 p.m. from the trusted voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
KMOX news time is 10:29. Donate a car, get a tax receipt, and tickets to the St. Louis Aquarium at mersgoodwill.org.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, they'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Learn about the history and lessons of the Holocaust at the newly renovated St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum, reopening November 2nd. Membership and tickets for individual and group tours at stlholocaustmuseum.org. At 10:30, we have sunny skies and 55 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Carol Daniel. Both President Joe Biden and his predecessor Donald Trump hoping to provide their parties late boosts on the last full day of campaigning before tomorrow's midterm elections. Biden holding a rally this evening in Maryland. Trump is in Ohio for his handpicked Senate candidate, J.D. Vance. St. Clair County Clerk Tom Holbrook says the risk of a hack is very low.
None of our machines are hooked up to the internet. None of the machines that totalize the votes or process the votes is hooked up to the internet. And we do all of that offline and then upload it to just a website that shows what the results are.
Holbrook says the governor's race and a newly drawn congressional district in the Metro East have generated a lot of interest in this election. He was a guest this morning on Total Information AM. What's known as a blood moon lunar eclipse will be visible tomorrow morning. It will turn the moon blood red, also known as a beaver moon, as animals prepare for winter. At the peak, the moon will be nearly 250,000 miles away, so as long as skies are clear, you should be able to catch it. The initial phase is just after 2 a.m. Central. The total eclipse lasting from 4:17 to 5:42 a.m. Tuesday morning. The next one, not for 3 years. Steve Martin and Martin Short coming back to the fabulous Fox Theater next summer. The Fox announcing today their June 3rd tour called You Won't Believe What They Look Like Today. Tickets go on sale this Friday, November 11th at 10 a.m.
None of our machines are hooked. None of our machines are hooked up to the internet.
Taking a look at the commute at this hour. There's a stalled vehicle, 270 westbound at Lindbergh Boulevard. It is on the right shoulder. They're working a crash, 270 southbound before Manchester. The right lane is closed there. Could be closed for another 45 minutes. The KMOX forecast for this afternoon, cooler than recent days. Plenty of sunshine. The high, 63. Chilly tonight with some clouds. Overnight low of 40 to 45 degrees. It's sunny now and 55 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Carol Daniel, KMOX News.
Yes, with inflation, interest rate increases, and a possible recession looming, we are no doubt facing uncertain times in the housing market. But as a realtor with over 20 years of experience, I can tell you, if you're thinking of selling your home, now more than ever, you need a realtor to help you through these times while saving you money. Hi, I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty, and we offer all of this for only 4%. Why pay more than 4%? 314-441-4444.
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
Get locked into You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM, with Nick Costos and Ken Barkley on the BetQL network.
I don't know who's good, and that's really awesome. That's what made the weekend so fun. I'm leaving that weekend questioning everything about who's going to win the college football national championship, who's even going to go to the playoff, who's going to win the Heisman Trophy, who's going to win the Super Bowl if it's not Buffalo.
You Better You Bet, 3 to 7 p.m. Eastern, from the BetQL network.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The holidays are upon us. Call Zero Res now before the rush. Get 3 rooms Zero Res clean starting at just $129 and get a free room of fiber protectant for an $80 savings plus $50 off your air ducts. Call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Driven by the Bomarito Automotive Group, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
What really matters to you? At Archwell Health, that's what matters to us. When Linda told her doctor about the trip her family planned for her 70th birthday, our team worked together to improve her mobility. Then there's Shirley, who wanted to lose a little weight. She and her doctor chose an Archwell Health exercise class, and her dietitian also had a few ideas. We're here to help you live your life to the fullest because you are more than a patient. Join today at archwellhealth.com/livewell.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you provide? Cookie cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Celebrating one amazing career. 40 incredible years on the voice of St. Louis. Congratulations, news reporter Fred Bottomer, from all of us at KMOX.
Coming up in the 12 o'clock hour, you just may have heard that little promo there at the end congratulating our good friend Fred Bottomer. 40 years at KMOX. He's going to join us at 12:15 to just talk a little bit about it. Fred is Mark Reardon's producer and has been for many, many years, both when he was here and now that he's on 97.1. But Fred is also our health editor, our religion editor, a regular daily contributor, basically to every show and every part of KMOX. And 40 years, man. Now, he was like 18 when he started, right? It was something like that. He was pretty young because he said it's like his only job. We were teasing the other day, and he was like, yeah, it's basically been my only job.
And it was like that for Chris Myhill because Chris Myhill, before he retired this summer, was the longest employee at KMOX. I think it was 42 years. He started working here when he was 16. It was his only job. So then Fred took the scepter from Myhill.
And he still has it, by the way. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's still here. And don't you think this, Kevin? You and I have been here early in the morning. We've been here at night. We've been here in the afternoon. Fred is always walking up and down the hallways with a handful of folders.
Yeah,
he's always here.
He is absolutely here that entire time. So we'll talk to Fred later on as well. And, of course, trending is coming up next. Let's take the 10,000-foot view of Election Day tomorrow. Sounds like it's going to be a massive day for those who vote Republican.
Yes.
I mean, clearly there's a major shift ahead. It's not unusual that in midterms, the pushback is against the current party that has the presidency. This seems to happen I wouldn't say every 4 years, but every first midterm following a new president taking office. And this year, look, as with all things, everything is even more heated than it normally is. Seem to be kind of ratcheting things up. We'll talk to Rich Rubino about that idea, other times that have been as contentious as this. But this is very clearly a trend, right? The first midterm following a new president taking over, this is what happens. Now, the question is this what happens? Is this going to kind of mirror other years, or is it going to be even bigger, a bigger swing than it normally is?
You mean like the tidal wave? Will it be redder or bluer?
I mean, it's going to be a red wave. I mean, like it's going. Every bit of analysis suggests that. And the question at this point, right, Amy, is whether or not is how balanced it's going to be in the Senate, right? Because the House is going to swing.
Yes.
Every bit of polling I've seen on that says the House is going to swing and it's going to swing big. The only question is how much it'll swing in the Senate, and there are just a few races there that are going to determine whether you have a couple of seats difference, maybe even a 50-50 split. But I mean, that's the only element of this that seems to be close.
Yeah, I do think it's going to swing red in the Senate as well.
Yep.
And one reason why I think it's going to be even redder than perhaps polls are letting on, it can be a lot of Republicans are being a little bit, I shouldn't say, let me rephrase this. A lot of people who may vote Republican are at times being quieter or not talking to pollsters. Because it's just not in vogue. You have the very loud MAGA Republicans who are out there with their flags and everything, but there are a lot of more conservative leaning people, maybe slightly right of center, who have decided, I'm going to vote Republican, but I'm going to do it kind of quietly.
Yeah, John Hancock was talking about that, I think last week.
Yeah,
last
that's
Friday.
right. Last week he was. And one reason why I think people are doing that is Democrats, you could say Democrats have failed, or their messaging has failed, or people are disappointed with how Democrats handled two major things: the economy, and then the whole schools and kids and COVID and the shutdowns. When you mess with people's kids and people's wallets, it's tough to bounce back from that. Even the Dobbs decision, which overturns Roe, which I think normally would be a huge push in the Democratic direction, is not swinging with that momentum that you would expect because, again, kids and the economy. Those are two things that people will vote on. And we look at the schools and especially some of the blue states and how long the schools were shut down, how that, my goodness, the school closures really hurt the economically disadvantaged areas even more than schools where perhaps parents have more resources. They have a parent who can afford to stay home. They can afford tutors. They could have their little pods for schooling. The kids that
jobs that allowed you to stay home.
Jobs that allowed you to stay home. The kids that relied on public schools for, not just their education, but even meals. Man, those schools were closed down in California for a long time. I think people saw the hypocrisy of the elite going out on their trips and going out to French Laundry and other fancy restaurants while their kids had soccer games canceled at worst, or were forced to wear masks during PE or whatever it was. I think people are very unhappy, and that is going to push them even more than a Dobbs decision will.
Well, apparently there's even more than that. I mean, there's also this large group of people that are running that are also election deniers.
And that is a huge issue.
And I would say the crazy thing is I don't believe that it's a huge percentage of people.
Of the candidates, you mean, or of the
Of
voters?
the candidates or of the voters.
Okay.
But it's enough to swing people,
I
right?
think
I mean,
it's
if you're on the, and yeah, I mean, like, what did they say? It's like 30%? 36, 35% of the something, it was something along those lines of Republican voters believed in the election conspiracies. But that's a lot when it comes to motivating people to do something, right? If you feel like something's been taken from you, that's big motivation. Now, like you said, that you would think that the Roe decision would have had a similar effect, and maybe it will, but because of everything else, when you stack up, as you pointed out, the criticisms about what ended up happening with the COVID shutdown, when you combine that with the economy as it is now, because again, we can assign blame all we want. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. You're on watch. You're the one that's going to wear it. I mean, it's how it's going to be.
And we can say, while Trump was a spender and Republicans voted on the stimulus package that was almost $3 trillion, Democrats initially proposed a stimulus package that was 3 times that amount. That was over $6 trillion. Yeah. We saw Gavin Newsom in California say he's going to fight inflation in California by handing out $1,000 stimulus checks. All of those things do make inflation worse. Would there have been inflation no matter who was in the White House? Absolutely. Could you argue that those policies made a difference to exacerbate the situation? I would.
Yeah, but you know what? Not one person was going to turn down those checks.
No.
And to me, it's incredibly hypocritical to be angry about that when you cashed the check and you were okay with it.
What do you do with the check?
Who was pushing back at the time? At the time when it was happening, who was saying, I don't want this? don't send it
But
to
I don't
me.
think that's the argument. I think the argument was Republicans were saying we need to send out a check, but it should be this much.
But they won.
They
it
did
ended
win.
up right. So how can we blame somebody for something that they didn't actually accomplish?
Yeah. Well, I think because you can look at some of the things that were accomplished. Again, whether we're talking on the state level or the national level. Going back to the election deniers, though, because I think this is an important part. We've seen the Republican narrative, the radical liberal agenda, and that the Democrats are this godless group of people who are going to destroy American values. That is for sure a narrative we're seeing on the right. On the left, I keep seeing the narrative that democracy is on the ballot, that democracy is at stake. And to a point, when you are looking at election deniers, there's an element of truth to that, yeah, it's not great if we start getting state attorneys general who are election deniers who are winning that office, because you have the Secretary of State, you have the attorneys general, all of these states that run elections. You don't want election deniers in those positions. However, what bothers me about the Democrats making that statement is that they have spent over $57 million to back MAGA election deniers because they think that those election deniers, that those MAGA Republicans will be more beatable in the general election. And I was looking at the different states where the Democrats have spent millions of dollars to get these MAGA Republicans elected. The big one that we talked about earlier this summer was the incumbent Representative Peter Meijer in Michigan, who was defeated by his opponent, Gibbs. So the Democrats spent $1 million on Gibbs's campaign. Gibbs only spent $30,000. Gibbs doesn't win that. And Gibbs is an election denier and a conspiracy theorist. He doesn't win that without Democratic money. Well, there's a chance because of this red wave that you are getting the more extreme MAGA Republicans actually winning the general election because of Democratic money. The same thing happened.
Do we have an accounting of how many cases that is possible going into tomorrow?
So I mentioned Michigan. New Hampshire is one that it was a GOP mainstream candidate was Chuck Morse. He was a Mitch McConnell backed guy linked to the NRA. And then the Democrats spent millions against him, like a smear campaign against him to boost Don Bolduc, who is a conspiracy theorist. He believes that China created COVID for population control. He believes the voting machines were rigged. He is now ahead of Senator Maggie Hassan, 48-47, in a tightly contested race in New Hampshire for a U.S. Senate seat. Then also in Maryland, MAGA candidates were backed in the governor, attorney general races. And I think that's a big deal. Even one U.S. Senate seat, if democracy is at stake and we have a Senate that's split, that one seat alone is indefensible.
Sure. And I think there's a balance that has to be struck here, because I think that we talked about it at the time. It's a horrifically short-sighted and risky plan, right? I mean, and to me,
this seat could go to this.
It could, but they don't get more of the blame than the people that actually want those people in there, because that's the problem.
They have the power, though.
The problem, though, is that there are so many people that believe that stuff when there's nothing to back it up. I mean, again, how many times do you have to have court cases thrown out by all kinds of judges, not just one particular denomination of judge, but by all kinds of them? And not one person has ever had the ability to prove their case in this, yet all of these people believe it. And I think that's the thing here, is that there's plenty of criticism for everybody that's involved. In fact, we're going to hear from Dan Crenshaw, who over the weekend on his podcast said, yeah, behind the scenes, all kinds of people in the Republican Party knew that the election denial stuff was BS, but they went along with it anyway because they knew it was beneficial to them. Well, wait a minute, hold on. So, and again, I think it's important to criticize the strategy of backing those people,
because you can't.
But that's
say
not
that,
worse than people knowingly saying, we know this is BS, but we're going along with it anyway.
I don't know, because again, I understand your point that we're all making a decision on who we're voting for, but let's say you're a family and your kids were out of school in Michigan. My goodness, Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan shut down the lawn and garden section of the like Home Depot or Lowe's. Who knows why? I think she thought people were gathering there. Like, very bizarre policy. So you're a mom and you're thinking, well, I guess I'll vote for the Republican candidate because I'll risk the election claims because I want my kids to be in school, right? And I can't afford these inflationary
You say that
policies.
until the other side is doing it and they're in power. I mean, like, this is the other game that we play. It's fine when it's my team doing it, but when the other team's in power, I don't want them to do it.
I'm not saying it right. What I'm saying is if the problem is not that just a Republican might win, but the Democrats are saying it's not just Republicans, it's the fact that they are election deniers, they're fascists, they're a threat to a democracy, then you shouldn't do what Illinois Democrats have done, and that's throw $34.5 million behind the Republican candidate Darren Bailey because Pritzker thinks that guy's super beatable.
All right, we've got trending telling you what's going on in the world next up here on the show.
Well, the past couple of years, as we were talking about, have been pretty darn stressful for everyone, but especially business owners. It's really tough when you didn't know what to expect with the COVID shutdowns. You didn't know what restrictions you'd be dealing with. Of course, there's inflation, supply chain issues, all of that. If you could use a little bit of a break, and if your business has 5 or more employees and you did manage to survive the past couple of years, you could be eligible to receive a payroll tax rebate of up to $26,000 per employee. Now, again, the key word is tax rebate. It's not a loan. There's no payback. It is a refund of your taxes. Now, if you're like me and you find the whole tax system super confusing and intimidating, don't worry. The team at getrefunds.com, they can help you out. The team of tax attorneys they have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program and have already returned $1 billion to businesses, and they can help you too. You might qualify even if your business took PPP, if you're a nonprofit, or even if you saw an increase in sales. To find out if your business qualifies, just go to getrefunds.com.
Hello, I'm Senator Carla May, and I'm asking for your vote. However, there are a few things I need you to know. A photo ID is required to vote in person, and it can't be expired. That means a Missouri driver's license or state ID, a military ID, including a veteran's ID card, a United States passport, or some other Missouri or federal ID. Also, make sure you know where you're going to cast your vote. And remember, early voting starts Tuesday, October the 25th. Come on, we can do this. I'm counting on you.
This is paid for by Citizens for Carla May.
This is CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger. Getting good value for your hard-earned money is more important than ever. When you have aches and pains, good value means getting relief that lasts, like the relief you'll enjoy from Salonpause pain-relieving patches. People that use Salonpause reported less pain with improvement in mood, sleep, and the ability to work. Life is better without pain. You can live better. Salonpause. It's good medicine.
Lockheed Martin understands what it takes to accomplish critical missions around the globe. They know it begins with long-standing partnerships rooted in expertise, interoperability, and trust. The most critical missions call for the F-35. It is essential to Allied air power. Across the growing community of F-35 nations, the need for alliance-based deterrence against evolving threats is stronger than ever. Lockheed Martin, your mission is ours.
CertaPro painters have powers beyond those of ordinary painters.
The power of precision.
That's the power of a skilled local team who know what they're doing.
The power of accurate estimates.
Estimates, not guesstimates.
The power of certainty.
CertaPro painters. That's the power of pro. Get your project started at CertaPro.com.
Each CertaPro painter's business is independently owned and operated.
Yeah, I was just at a convention with for one of the major manufacturers, and they were showing all the new products, and we were discussing all the new regulations that are starting in January. With that being said, there are new changes coming up next year. But if you want to get ahead of the curve and you think you're going to replace it, but you don't want to replace the system now, here's what I'm willing to do. I can buy all the equipment if you want to buy it now and put it in at a later date. I have a feeling it's going to save you 20%, 30%, which is huge on a furnace and air conditioner. If your system is 15, 20 years or older and you know you're going to do it, probably not a time to be putting it off. I mean, we have 0% financing for up to 60 months if you qualify. I can help you out. Call me, Bart Inman, one easy number in Missouri and Illinois, 314-293-2600. Just this one name, Bart Inman. That's Bart with a B, Inman with an I.
Home Sweet Home mission is to give underserved families a sense of pride and to improve the quality of their lives by providing basic household furnishings. To learn more, go to homesweethomestl.org.
Men suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, regardless of age or past medical history, you'll see instant results on your first visit at Paramount Men's Medical Center. And for a limited time, your initial consultation and first treatment are totally free. Call now, 314-720-8081.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing, together millions of things for our planet. If having turkey for the holidays, buy from a local farm, get one labeled USDA organic or certified humane. When we each share our one thing, it becomes a million things for our planet. What's your one thing?
Halloween is over, but hiring is still a bit scary. Indeed's end-to-end solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates. Sponsor a job and instantly receive a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444. This is the show. The show continues on KMOX.
What is it? What's happened?
What's going on? What do you know?
What just happened?
What happened?
I need to know.
Trending now on the show.
All right, let's do trending. Brought to you by Old Town Donuts and Florissant in Cottleville. And let's do the non-Elon trending. Because
oh my gosh. Well, that's like all the trending is
it's
Elon.
Literally everything.
Can I just, this is one, I'll do one quick Elon trending.
All right,
Because
all right.
all of my trending.
I didn't tell you in advance that I was
No,
going
you
to do
didn't.
that.
So impersonating is trending because, again, if you impersonate Elon Musk, he'll block you. Kathy Griffin, the comedian, she's not my favorite, but she has been permanently suspended from Twitter for impersonating Elon Musk. Oh my goodness, what a small human being you have to be. Kathy Griffin is a comedian. So what if you don't agree with her? That's what First Amendment and free speech is for. And she impersonated Elon Musk. She changed her name to Elon Musk.
Well,
not
she
her
tweeted
handle.
something with that.
Yes.
Like that was kind of the point, is that what people were doing was changing their name to Elon Musk
Yeah.
and then tweeting something, basically mocking him in some way, shape, or form.
Would you say that's free speech?
Not unless it's not Amy. If you didn't mark it clearly as parody, then you're identity a thief.
Well,
you're an identity thief.
She's been banned.
Ugh, can't say the words.
All right, what's trending? You're non-Elon trending.
Well, so non-Elon world, and obviously outside of the elections, because we're coming back to that after the top of the hour news. But the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was trending this weekend for a lot of reasons. I'm sure you didn't see the clip, but there was the Dolly Parton performing with Judas Priest.
No, I didn't see that.
It's just awesome. It is awesome. And obviously it's a wide range of people going, it's called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it covers everything. I mean, Dolly is mostly known as a country star. Lionel Richie was inducted over the weekend. Duran Duran. So it's a wide ranging group of people, but I just thought that Dolly and Judas Priest, Rob Halford, the singer, getting together and singing on stage is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I wouldn't call it necessarily good,
Yeah,
but it was a thing.
but it happened.
It happened this weekend. All right, hey, we're going to be joined by Rich Rubino after the news to talk about political weirdness on the show.
When you vote tomorrow, be sure to finish your ballot and vote for your judges. Missouri's judicial system gives voters the final say in retaining their judges. So know your judges before you vote. Visit yourmissourijudges.org and learn about the nonpartisan judges up for retention this year. That's yourmissourijudges.org. It's up to you to help make sure we have skilled, fair, and impartial judges. Know your judges and finish the ballot proudly. Visit yourmissourijudges.org.
Paid for by the Missouri Bar, Misha Epps, Executive Director.
Matzo Matt here for Brewpub Lots of Matzo Pizzas. This Veterans Day, we honor all of those who courageously, selflessly, and humbly served or are currently serving the United States of America. Leaving your families and loved ones to perform the duty that you were called to for the sake of our country is nothing short of heroic, and for that, we hold you in high regard. Thank you for the sacrifice you made so that we, as Americans, can enjoy the liberties we have today. Thank you for your determination to grant us the freedoms that we enjoy on a daily basis. You have our support, our gratitude, and most of all, you have our thanks.
Many of the people calling our office right now are scared.
They spent 30 years saving money for retirement, and this stock market is taking it away. This is Steve All of the All Financial Group, and I'm asking you to join me on Wednesday, November the 16th for an exclusive educational workshop where we can show you how to avoid large market declines in this current and future volatile markets. We'll show you how to get off that market roller coaster, building guaranteed incomes for the rest of your life. Don't trade the stress of work for a new kind of stress in retirement.
Seats are filling up fast, and you must RSVP to attend. Call right now, 636-230-8824. That's 636-230-8824, or visit yourmoneymattersstl.com. Advisory services offered through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC. The All Financial Group and Retirement Wealth Advisors are not affiliated. The All Financial Group is a financial services firm that offers a broad array of products and services, including life insurance and annuities, licensed in Missouri and Illinois.
KMOX, KECK HD2, K254CR, St. Louis.
The home of the Cardinals, KMOX. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Hey, KMOX listeners, Roger Wigginton here in Don Rogers Limited, 6727 West Main in Belleville. Well, we're certainly getting deep into fall. Holiday season is right around the corner. Hard to believe, but it is. At Don Rogers Limited and our men's and women's apparel departments, we are fully stocked. The assortment is incredible. But for holiday wearing or holiday sharing, think of Don Rogers as your one-stop shop. If you need a special gift of men's and women's apparel, we've got it. If you're looking something for yourself that's cute and different for the holidays, we've got it. You know, we've got a huge selection of men's and women's sweaters, probably more sweaters than any store in the area. Plenty of free parking, free gift wrap on in-store purchases, free alterations on in-store purchases. You know, we'd love to have you stop by. Of course, always great service. Don't forget, we're located at 6727 West Main in Belleville. Park at the door, walk in, get waited on. We'd love to see you. And as always, thank you so very much for listening to our commercial.
Mid-America's most trusted source for news, KMOX.
At 11 o'clock, we've got a blue sky. It's 57 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun. Our top story this hour, a businessman connected to Russian President Vladimir Putin says he would try to spoil U.S. elections.
Yevgeny Prigozhin, known as Putin's chief because of his catering contacts with him, says he had interfered in U.S. elections and said he would continue to do so, for the first time confirming accusations he's been rejecting for years. In remarks posted by his spokespeople on social media, Prigozhin says he and his associates have interfered, are interfering, and will continue to interfere. Carefully, he says, precisely, surgically, and in our way. Prigozhin, a dozen other Russian nationals, and 3 Russian companies were charged with operating a covert social media campaign aimed at fomenting discord and dividing American public opinion ahead of the 2016 presidential election, and indicted in 2018. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Ukraine has received more crucial military assistance from the U.S. and its allies, as CBS News correspondent Cammie McCormick reports.
Ukraine's defense minister announced his country has received the first delivery of NASAMS air defense systems. The U.S. had promised to accelerate shipments of the sophisticated systems because of the Russian missile barrage. The U.S. and its allies are also looking at ways to assist Ukraine in repairing its energy infrastructure, which Russia continues to target.
A record Powerball jackpot has grown to an even larger $1.9 billion after nobody won the lottery drawing on Saturday night. The next chance for someone to get lucky is tonight.
I would actually still continue working. Probably set my kids up with their college funds and then travel. I wouldn't stop working.
Winners of lottery jackpots usually prefer the lump sum of cash, which the Multi-State Lottery Association says this time would be $929.1 million. Celebrating 40 years of broadcast excellence on KMOX, longtime religion and health editor Fred Bottomer joined Total Information AM to talk about his first job here in 1982.
And I would come in on a Friday afternoon at 3 p.m., and I would stay until Saturday morning right around noon.
Wow.
What? Yeah, I know. That was a long shift. I bring 2 meals because I was there so long.
What were you doing?
I was editing the newscasts. So I would write and put together the newscast for the anchors.
KMOX Sports, a lot of coaching changes are coming to the St. Louis Cardinals next season. Manager Ollie Marmol is excited to see Turner Ward, Brandon Allen, and Patrick Elkins get it working in the hitting department.
At the end of the day, those hitters, what they want to know is
man, when I'm in the box, that you're in there with me. And all three of those guys do a really nice job with that. So I look forward to what our offense looks like with them leading it.
The most recent hire was Cardinals Hall of Famer Matt Holliday as bench coach to replace Skip Schumacher, who exits to become the Miami manager. The First Made Bank and Trust business desk, what's known as a blood moon lunar eclipse, will be visible shortly.
The moon is offering a sight that you won't see again for another 3 years. The lunar eclipse Tuesday morning will turn the moon blood red. It's also known as a beaver moon as the animals prepare for winter. At the peak, the moon will be nearly 250,000 miles away, and so long as skies are clear, you should be able to see it. The farther west, the better in the pre-dawn hours. The initial phase is just after 3 a.m. Eastern, with the total eclipse lasting from 5:17 to 6:42 a.m. Eastern Tuesday morning. Matt Piper, CBS News.
The Dow from Stiefel up 136 points. Crash on 44 west past Lindbergh on the right shoulder. Stall 6440 east past Woods Mill on the right shoulder. Stall 64 east to 270 south on the right shoulder.
KMOX AccuWeather, a sunny afternoon, but it's cooler than recent days. We'll get up to 63, down in the chilly 40s tonight, low to mid-60s tomorrow, and then warming up in the low to mid-70s for a couple of days before a much colder air mass comes in for the weekend. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Dean DeVore, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
58 in Florissant, 57 in St. Peters, 57 downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than four? 314-441-4444.
It's 11:05 on the show. Amy Marks, course, Kevin Wheeler hanging out with you today. Ranj is off. He will be back tomorrow. And tomorrow, of course, is election day, and we're spending a good bit of today kind of prepping for that more on a big picture scale. And then the next couple of days will be more about breaking down what's actually happening. But to get a little bit of a sneak preview of tomorrow and also some historical perspective on this, we've got Rich Rubino with us here on the show, political analyst, author of the Great American Political Trivia Challenge, Political Trivia on Steroids. Rich, good to have you on again. How have you been?
Good. I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me on again.
Oh, glad to do it. And obviously, timing is perfect with election day tomorrow. It obviously looks like we're going to see a bit of a red wave. We're going to see a pushback, which I'm sure you can back up with some historical context. I can just say a sentence. But we always seem to have the pushback in the first midterm following a new president taking over. What does that look like historically? And is that pretty much what we're looking at tomorrow?
Yeah, used generally speaking, the main harbinger is the fact that the president, his first 2 years, the midterm election usually has a job approval under 50%. But since World War II, the party that holds the presidency has lost on average of 26 seats. Bill Clinton lost 53 seats. Barack Obama lost about 63 seats. But then 2 years later, they both came back. Usually there's a lot of buyer's remorse on the part of kind of independent voters. And there's more galvanization on the opposite party. So Republicans are usually more galvanized. And there was some thought that perhaps because of the Dobbs decision over Roe v. Wade, that perhaps would bring out some Democrats who were kind of angry about that. But it looks right now like it is definitely trending Republican. My guess is in the House, it's probably going to be about if it's about 23 seats, that's probably pretty modest. If for no other reason, just because there aren't that many seats that are actually competitive this time around. Only 16 seats, for example, in the last presidential election went for a party other than their presidential nominee, meaning, for example, in a seat in northern Maine, one of them went for the Democrat while voting for Donald Trump. So it's just very rare. Just so many districts are just so monolithic right now. In the Senate, very interesting. It could very well be essentially split with this like it is now with Harris breaking the tie and Joe Manchin being omnipotent. Or there's a possibility because in Georgia, with Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock, there's also a libertarian running, and under Georgia state law, if no candidate registers 50% of the vote, then theoretically it could go to a runoff in December 6th. We could have the exact same scenario we had last time where everybody is waiting on the peach state, and that could decide the control of the United States Senate. But I would say that there's probably going to be probably not right now a tsunami, or certainly not necessarily a red wave, but I do see the Republicans certainly taking control of the House right now and probably about homeostasis in the United States Senate.
Is there in modern memory a midterm election that was rather famously one-sided as a reactionary red wave or a reactionary blue wave?
Oh, yes. Actually, 1894, believe it or not. I know that's the one you were thinking of.
That's what I was thinking.
I knew it was that one. It was that one.
It was near that or 1776.
So Grover Cleveland comes in. He actually came in in 1884, 1885, served one term, lost to Benjamin Harrison, comes back. And in 1893, there's a depression. And Grover Cleveland sees himself as the guardian president. The Democrats, the Conservative Party at the time. And as a result, he would do virtually nothing to try to get the country out of the panic of 1893. There were protests, there were railroad strikes, people were coming to the Capitol saying, please, Mr. President, do something. And there was a huge backlash. And as a result, and this is an all-time record, the Republican Party picked up 113 seats in the House of Representatives, a record that has never been broken even today.
So, Rich, I think we actually talked about this way back in one of the first couple of conversations we had, but I think it's worth bringing back with Election Day tomorrow. What are other times when things have been contentious like this? Because in the moment, it feels like the worst it's ever been. And maybe you could argue it's the worst it's been in my adult lifetime, because I go back to 80s high school, 90s college, Rich. Nobody talked politics. Nobody cared. It wasn't a big thing until kind of mid to late 90s. It started to be much more of a conversation nationally. Are there other times that come to your mind that are as contentious as it is now?
Yes. Well, the obvious one, of course, is the Civil War. But beyond that, I would say the Depression, certainly, as I was saying, the Panic of 1893, then certainly the Great Depression, World War II, but also the 1960s, in part because there was kind of an amalgamation of things during the Johnson administration. On the one hand, you had some you had many on the right who were vociferously just excoriated him for the Great Society, for Medicare, for the war on poverty. Then you had those on the left, on the other side, who were excoriating President Johnson because of Vietnam. So in 1966, the Democrats lost about 47 seats after the Johnson wave in 1964. But there were really protests really all over the country. On the one hand, there were segregationists who were protesting civil rights, and there were on the other side, there were those who were protesting against the Vietnam War. What usually happens, though, when you have times like this, usually, and this goes after think about the 19 teens, you have World War I, then you have the 20s, which were generally peace and prosperity. The 1930s and 40s, you had the Great Depression. Then you had certainly World War II. But the 1950s, other than the fact that people were kind of afraid of the Cold War, generally speaking, economically, the country was going through somewhat peace and prosperity. I mean, there's certainly a few recessions. The 1970s, 1980s, then you go through the 1990s, which were generally a time of peace and prosperity. I actually think 97 was probably the last innocent year. The last year, nobody really cared about politics, and everyone was generally running smoothly. But then 1998, you had the Monica Lewinsky scandal. Then you had 9/11, Afghanistan, Iraq. And then since then, we haven't really had that time of homeostasis. But I do expect it probably in the next decade or so that you'll have a time where the citizenry will be completely depoliticized, and politics is just something that, is on the background, but not something that everybody is just so enveloped in.
I hope that is on the horizon. That was kind of what I was going to follow up with.
Yes.
But in your mind, having studied all of this, does the internet change that at all? Because the internet didn't exist in those times before that you're talking about. And obviously it can be an adjutant, if you will.
Yes, that's the $64,000 question. Although I will say, in terms of the internet, when I'm saying the internet, I'm saying specifically social media. I think most people that are really into it, that are on it a lot, tend to be those who, at least the ones that are on political sites, tend to be those that just are going toward people that they agree with. They're going to these kind of political silos, ideological silos, and they're just basically talking to people that they agree with. So I don't think that those people are necessarily going to change their mind. Now, that being said, on the other side of that, there might be some low information voters who are reading something. They're seeing it on a Facebook page, and they're saying, oh, look at what this person said about this candidate. Maybe I'll go out and vote for them. But I think that before the internet, there were other ways of doing that, and sort of the old fashioned way of just going door to door and going with signs and doing very much retail politicking. But I don't think it's had that dramatic of a change especially for a midterm election, because people that come out in midterm elections when there's no presidential candidates, no presidential election on the ballot, they have to have at least some interest in politics to, first of all, to know when the election is and actually know that they're going to come out and know kind of somewhat who the candidates are. So I don't think it's had that dramatic of an effect, but certainly social media does bring us into our ideological silos.
This is kind of a, I don't know, a rabbit trail question, but I just watched the Hulu documentary on Jerry Falwell, God
Oh, yeah.
forbid, and they referred to Falwell and his influence in the evangelical community, at least in the political side of things, as something of a kingmaker. And I imagine there have been the kingmakers throughout the years with different presidential administrations. Who were some of those who were highly influential, either for the Democratic side or the Republican side?
Yeah, Jerry Falwell, that's a great one because actually Ronald Reagan. So remember, a lot of the Christian right and evangelicals were actually not always Republicans. Some of them actually supported Jimmy Carter in 1976 because he was a born-again Christian. But by around 1980, Ronald Reagan brought a lot of those into the Republican Party. At one point, he said, because of their tax-exempt status, he says, I know you cannot endorse me, but I am endorsing you. So as a result, many evangelicals kind of abandoned the Democratic Party and they came in full throttle. At the same time, neoconservatives who were kind of dissatisfied with the McGovern movement in the Democratic Party came over and supported the Republican Party under Ronald Reagan as well. But actually, in terms of kingmakers, one I think in the last election, you have to say Jim Clyburn. So Joe Biden loses miserably in Iowa, loses miserably in New Hampshire. He actually left New Hampshire before even giving a concession speech because it was just so embarrassing for him. And South Carolina was kind of his last stand. If he did not win in South Carolina, he was probably going to have to drop out of the race. But Jim Clyburn, the majority whip, very influential in South Carolina, comes in and endorses Joe Biden. And all of a sudden, you have all these other presidential candidates who dropped out: Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, Pete Buttigieg, all consolidate toward Joe Biden. Joe Biden wins South Carolina, and then he goes on to win the nomination. Now, one other from history, I would have to say, you have to go all the way back to Roscoe Conkling, who was kind of the chairman, he was a senator from New York, but he really had a lot of influence in the Republican Party. And he was somebody who was very much against the reform of civil service. So back in the 1880s, James Garfield, one of the first choices for the Republican Party was Levy Morton to become the Republican vice presidential nominee. And Levy Morton went to Roscoe Conkling, and Roscoe Conkling says, do not take it. James Garfield is not one of us. James Garfield is somebody who supports civil service reform. So Levy Morton, who always wanted to be president of the United States, said no. Then Chester Arthur, somebody who had opposed civil service reform to balance a ticket, is asked, will you accept the vice presidential nominee? And Levy Morton says, Chester A. Arthur, do not take it. And Chester A. Arthur says, I really want this. I'm going to take it. About 9 months into his first term, James Garfield dies, and Chester A. Arthur becomes president. And Levy Morton, who'd always dreamt of becoming president, never becomes president himself. But his consolation prize when Benjamin Harrison gets in 1888, Levy Morton is his vice president. I know that there's a big Levy Morton constituency in the audience tonight. So.
Got to make sure we fill that need. Absolutely.
I got to get my Levy Morton T-shirt out of
the ratings are going to skyrocket on this one.
All right, Rich. So this is maybe a lot to get into, but we only have about a minute. Ultimately, who decides elections? I mean, is it really kind of the independent percentage that sits between the Republicans and the Democrats that swings both ways? Are they really the ones that determine how elections go?
No, usually it's actually, that's a very small segment, but generally speaking, it's turnout, and that turnout is usually galvanization of the candidates' bases. So that's why you have a lot of get out the vote rallies, but most candidates, if you've noticed in a general election, tend to be, a lot of it is trying to just consolidate and keep the people that are already for you from the beginning and give them a reason to essentially come out in droves. Donald Trump, part of the reason that he won, Hillary Clinton, if you look at the polls, Hillary Clinton was supposed to win by about 3 points in the popular vote. She won by about 2.1%. But with Donald Trump, he consolidated what became his base in terms of blue-collar voters, and he overperformed with them in many respects. So there are very few voters that are really, truly swing voters that are really looking at this, that are in the last day or so are saying, I really have to decide between one candidate or the other, or three candidates, whatever it is. Most people essentially have their minds made up now. So the candidates, it's just about trying to turn them out, doing everything they possibly can, sending cars for them, doing everything, just promising to do their lawn tomorrow, whatever it is, to get them to come out and vote.
Rich, thank you so much. Great information. We really appreciate it. We'll look forward to talking again soon.
Thank you. Next time we can talk more about Levy Martin if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll do my homework on that and make sure I've got my T-shirt to go with Amy's T-shirt. That's Rich Rubino, political analyst, author of the Great American Political Trivia Challenge, Political Trivia on Steroids. All right, related to that question I asked him about the internet, we're going to flash back about 20 years, maybe even just a little bit more than 20 years, what one really famous person said / predicted about the internet in the late 90s. That'll be next on the show.
For everything online, it's Odyssey.com. Download the Odyssey app and listen to The Dave Glover Show and all the news, talk, sports, and podcasts that move you. Odyssey, that's AUDACY.
The federal government is hiring 87,000 new IRS enforcement agents. Make no mistake, with spending out of control, they're looking to collect revenue. The first target will be you. If you have not paid your taxes or filed them in years, let me help you get that target off your back. Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm here in St. Louis. So if you have unfiled returns, wage levies, bank levies, or tax liens, now's the time to call the Lance Drury Law Firm before the IRS calls you. Your consultation is free, so don't put it off. The Lance Drury Law Firm focuses solely on tax resolution law. It's all we do. And if you have IRS problems, you have legal problems. Let us use our tax law resolution experience to guide you and work on your custom resolution plan. Call now. It's free and confidential. Call me, Lance Drury, at 314-260-6120 or go to lance.drurylaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Are you tired of paying fees and commissions year after year, even when you lose your money? How would you like to decrease fees and limit your risk? Join me, Ben Coons, for the Retirement and Income Radio Show, heard here every Saturday at 3 p.m. on KMOX Radio. You can also call me now for your complimentary retirement and income book at 844-513-SAFE. That's 844-513-7233.
Hey, listener. Welcome to Limu's Karaoke Lounge, where Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need, and the music never stops. Hit it.
There's an emu with a full-time job. His partner's Doug, but Limu's the heartthrob. Grubs and worms, that's what Limu eats. Gonna fuel up to save you money and hit the streets.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Come on, we're going to be late to the cookout.
I was just packing up my famous mac and cheese.
I hope you packed the Pepto, too.
Huh?
Pepto-Bismol provides fast relief from heartburn and indigestion. You know, that uncomfortable feeling after you eat too much. And after the deviled eggs, baked beans, and barbecue ribs, you're going to need it.
Barbecue ribs? I should probably pack an extra shirt, too.
Good call.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Pepto-Bismol. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
There are better ways to spend your time than shopping for Medicare. With enrollment ending December 7th, let Health Markets find your plan. Visit healthmarkets.com/easy. Health Markets Insurance Agency Incorporated is licensed as an insurance agency in all 50 states and D.C. Not all agents are licensed to sell all products. Service and product availability varies by state. Sales agents may be compensated based on a consumer's enrollment in a health plan. No obligation to enroll. Information provided is limited to plans offered in your area. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-day kitchen and bath.
I had heard about 3-day kitchen and bath. I kind of always dismissed it thinking, well, nobody can do that in 3 days. I wanted somebody who was going to come when they said they would come and, do what they said they were going to do. What I liked best was having it done in, less than a week, the whole thing from top to bottom. Nobody could believe that I really had it done that fast. They absolutely held up to every single thing that they agreed to. I especially loved the fact that I didn't have to go out all over town. The overall quality was very good. All the workmanship was so excellent. They'll definitely do exactly what they say they're going to do. There's no surprises, no added costs later. They stay until everything's exactly the way you want it, and you're done.
Thanks, Lori. Check us out online at 3daykitchen.com.
At 3-day kitchen and bath.
Trusted information, live and local. From the award-winning KMOX Newsroom.
All right, so we were talking about, just briefly, one of the questions I asked Rich Rubino in the last segment was about the internet and whether or not that changes the game moving forward, right? Because we've worked in cycles in the past where, you have these difficult times and eventually they calm down and everybody's happy and you get along for a while. And then you have the fighting and then you calm down and then you have the fighting and then you calm down. And I'm wondering if the internet would change that, right? That was kind of the question. And Rich basically said, yep, we don't know yet. we're going to find out as we go through all of this. But in 1999, David Bowie did an interview with a British interviewer named Jeremy Paxman. At the time, again, late 90s is when the internet is in its infant stages, right?
Nascent stages.
It's been
of the
there,
internet.
but it's only been there a few years, and it's just starting to expand. And I thought what David Bowie had to say about that, and look, there's no real anniversary or anything that brought this up. I saw it over the weekend on Twitter. I think a lot of what is said in here is relevant to a lot of the discussions we have, whether it's politics, social media's impact, all the Elon Musk stuff, like so many of the things we talk about on a day-to-day basis. We're going to talk about TikTok later on. So many of the things we talk about on a day-to-day basis center on the internet and its evolution over time. And I think that what David Bowie said 23 years ago, 1999, was really interesting in him being, as again, he's interviewed by Jeremy Paxman, talking about what this could mean, what this could do for essentially society.
At the time, up until at least the mid-70s, really felt that we were still living under the, in the guise of a single and absolute created society where there were known truths and known lies, and there was no kind of duplicity or pluralism about the things that we believed in. That started to break down rapidly in the 70s, and the idea of a duality in the way that we live. There are always 2, 3, 4, 5 sides to every question. That this singularity disappeared, and that I believe has produced such a medium as the internet, which absolutely establishes and shows us that we are living in total fragmentation. I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
It's just a tool, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No, it's an alien life form.
What do you think? I mean, when you think then about the
is there
future
life on Mars? Yes, it's just landed here.
But it's simply a different delivery system there. You're arguing about something more profound.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the actual context and the state of content is going to be so different to anything that we can really envisage at the moment, where the interplay between the user and the provider will be so in simpatico. It's going to crush our ideas of what mediums are all about.
That's 23 years ago. A lot of good. I mean, what I find interesting in there, well, first of all, David Bowie was a very smart person and clearly was talking to other very smart people about what this would all mean. A couple of things stood out. I mean, you're talking 23 years later, that fragmentation that he referred to is really apparent.
Yes.
And that's been growing over time, not necessarily didn't just explode here in the last few years. It's been gradually growing. And he actually, though, traced it back to the 1970s. And then when he's talking about this in the late 90s, saying that essentially this is an accelerant, right? Like this is speeding things up. But what I'm also fascinated with is in his voice and in his mannerisms when you watch the video, he's not trying to scare anybody. He's smiling, he's calm, he's at ease. He's not screaming that the sky is falling. In fact, he emphasizes that this could be equally good and bad, exhilarating and terrifying. And I think that's the part that is also correct.
It created a whole new reality. It really did. You know, we have 3-dimension. We live in our 3-dimensional world. This created another dimension in which we exist and we communicate and we exchange ideas. That total fragmentation, partly because the internet allowed us to live in silos. So great because we could share information, but dangerous because we could glom onto those who share our point of view exclusively.
That was David Bowie from 1999. Coming up next, some interesting comments from Dan Crenshaw over the weekend regarding election deniers. That'll be next up on the show.
It's almost here, election night in St. Louis, and be sure to stay with KMOX. I'm Michael Calhoun with our continuous coverage alongside Megan Lynch, plus our KMOX reporters at all the big watch parties, and analysis from names like John Hancock, Michael Kelly, Shamed Dogan, and Braxton Payne. Missouri, Illinois results, the national perspective from CBS. Stream us in your ears while your eyes are obsessing over the results on those screens. It's Campaign 2022 tomorrow, beginning at 7 p.m. from the trusted voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
KMOX News Time is 11:28. Donate a car, get a tax receipt, and tickets to the St. Louis Aquarium at mersgoodwill.org.
If you own a house in St. Louis and you want to sell it as is, without any inspections or the need to make any repairs, call Chris Buys Homes St. Louis at 314-328-8000 or at chrisbuyshomes.louis.com and get your cash offer without any obligations, commissions, banks, or headaches. Chris buys vacant houses, inherited houses, fixer-uppers, beautiful houses, even the tenant won't pay the rent apartment. Google Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis. That's Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis, and check out the best reviews from satisfied customers. When you sell to Chris, you decide when you want to move, according to your schedule and your terms. Go to chrisbuyshomesinstlouis.com. Google Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis or call 314-328-8000. That's 314-328-8000. Call Chris and get the offer you've been waiting for. Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis.com. That's Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis.com or call 314-328-8000.
I'm Tim Fitch, former chief of the St. Louis County Police Department. At a time when violent crime threatens our kids and our communities, we need tough leaders who will stand against criminals and with our men and women in law enforcement. That's why I support Dennis Hancock for St. Louis County Council. Dennis Hancock is endorsed by the St. Louis County Fraternal Order of Police. His opponent? She's backed by groups that want to defund the police. As the mayor of Fenton, Dennis Hancock didn't make excuses for criminals, he locked them up. Dennis proudly worked with law enforcement to keep our streets and our families safe. And that's exactly what he'll do on the St. Louis County Council. I hope you'll join me in supporting Dennis Hancock this November.
Dennis Hancock for St. Louis County Council. Reform St. Louis County Now is responsible for the content of this advertising. Paid for by Reform St. Louis County Now, firesampage.com, and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
At 11:30, we've got sun and 58 degrees downtown at the Arch. Elon Musk says Twitter will permanently suspend any account that impersonates another. The platform's new owner issued the warning over the weekend after some celebrities changed their Twitter display names, not their account names, to Elon Musk in reaction to the billionaire's decision to offer verified accounts to anybody for $8 a month. It's a bet that paid off.
In Houston, furniture store mogul Jim McIngvale won $75 million on bets the Astros would win the World Series. Caesars Sportsbook on the hook for the biggest chunk, $30 million. Courtney Donahoe, Bloomberg Radio.
Qatar has been on a ferocious construction spree that has few recent parallels in the long run-up to hosting the 2022 Men's World Cup soccer tournament. It built 7 of its 8 stadiums, a new metro system, highways, high-rises, and a futuristic city that 10 years ago was mostly dust and sand. And right now we've got emergency vehicles on 44 going west to 109, Eureka on the right shoulder. Some debris on 364 going east at Maryland Heights Expressway. That's got the right lane closed. And the forecast from Dean DeVore will have plenty of sunshine. It'll still be cooler today, though, with a high of 63 degrees. Some clouds overnight, the low 40 to 45. Tomorrow, seasonable sun and clouds with a high of 64, 74 for Wednesday. It's 58 degrees at the moment downtown. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Sponsored by Mosby Building Arts.
Mosby Building Arts here, suggesting everyone stand back and take a good hard look at your front door. Is it lacking curb appeal? Could a thief easily break in? Is it so old it's falling apart? If you answered yes to any of these questions, give Mosby Building Arts a call for a front door makeover.
All right, guys, Pizza Month is over. That ended at the end of October, so on Halloween. But November brings in a whole new set of things. First of all, it's still a great time to be enjoying pizza, especially when you're like me on the weekends watching football or baseball, or now hockey season is here too. To have the Brew Pub Lots of Matzo pizzas on hand is a great thing. Half pound of award-winning Wisconsin mozzarella cheese on every pizza, loaded with toppings, and high-quality ones too. You know, it's one thing to have a lot. It's another thing to have them be good, and they are really high-quality toppings on the Brew Pub Lots of Matzo pizzas. Now, in addition to making great pizza, the Brew Pub Lots of Matzo people, folks, they're really into the community as well. They're super involved with nonprofit organizations. They take a lot of pride in supporting at-risk youth programs, law enforcement officers, and veterans. And with Veterans Day approaching, the Brew Pub Lots of Matzo pizzas want to let you know, the company wants to let you know that you can that you should and they will be taking a moment to thank all of those that have served and who are currently serving in the United States military. So, you know, we all know the courage that it takes and the dedication and the commitment that it takes to choose that path. And of course, we all want to say thanks for that. And so does the Brew Pub Lots of Matzo Pizza Company. So when you get your chance, obviously, they say thanks to someone who has or is serving when Military Day comes around, which, by the way, coming up on November the 11th. So you've got an opportunity on Veterans Day to do just that. In the meantime, when you have some downtime, check out the Brew Pub Lots of Matzo pizzas. They're in the freezer aisle at your store.
Driven by the Bomarito Automotive Group, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
CertaPro painters have powers beyond those of ordinary painters.
Power of timeliness.
We show up when we say we will, on time and fully caffeinated.
The power of transformation.
Also known as making your house look so good, your neighbors will be jealous.
The power of certainty.
That's your local CertaPro painters. The power of pro. Get your project started at CertaPro.com.
Each CertaPro painter's business is independently owned and operated.
For 40 years, he's been a part of KMOX. Today, we celebrate news reporter Fred Bottomer and his 40 years on the voice of St. Louis. Congratulations, Fred, from all of us at KMOX.
It was always a lie. It was always a lie. The whole thing was always a lie. And it was a lie meant to rile people up. And, I've talked about this ad nauseum. It really made me angry. Because I'm like, the promises you're making that you're gonna challenge the Electoral College and overturn the election, there's not even a process for you to do that. It doesn't even exist.
That's Dan Crenshaw.
That
was on
Dan
a podcast.
Crenshaw.
Yes, that one. The
Texas
one that
Republican, former Navy SEAL.
Yep,
Yeah.
the one that is the representative for Texas's 2nd congressional district. That's him on his own podcast, flat out saying that the people that he was talking to within the party knew that the election denial claims were false, but rode with them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, he's saying how much it bothered him. Would have been nice to hear from Dan earlier on that subject. If you were hearing this all along, might have been nice to hear that sooner than 2 days before or 3 days before an election. But interesting, because we've heard this from other people too, and those people have tended to be outcasts, right? Kinzinger in Illinois, same thing, right? He made that very clear. And it's not resulted in good things for him. He's received a lot of negativity for it. He says he's received some threats for going in that direction. But that was from this weekend on Dan Crenshaw's own podcast, that a lot of people were acknowledging behind the scenes. He's talking about the people that he was meeting with. Republicans knew there was nothing there. There was nothing to do, that it wasn't real, but they wanted to ride it out and kind of, I guess you could say, act like you're fighting the good fight to keep people on your side.
So it's interesting with Dan Crenshaw because I think he has had whispers before, kind of pushing back against some of the louder election deniers in the GOP. But like you said, once you speak out, you become an outcast. And I guess there are people like Dan Crenshaw, those in the Republican Party, who wanted to keep their positions of power and so weren't as vocal as they should have been. I don't think that was the right decision. He goes on in this podcast when he's talking about those denying the election. He said, so I was like, what the hell are we doing? And I would tell that to people kind of behind closed doors too, especially a lot of the rabble rousers, like the political personalities, not even the politicians. He said, but even just the others, they're like, yeah, we know that, but we just, people just need their last hurrah. Like they just need to feel like we fought one last time. Trust me, it will be fine. And I was like, no, it won't. That's not what people believe, and that's not what you're telling them. And again, it's kind of him pushing back behind closed doors. I wish there were more Republicans. There is power in numbers. And I think if more Republicans had been more outspoken from the get-go, perhaps the whole election denial momentum wouldn't have gained the strength that it has. I mean, I'm looking at a story from last year, exactly a year ago, where people were upset with Dan Crenshaw because he warned of grifters and liars inside his party among fellow conservatives. This was a year ago. He was saying, hey, there are grifters and liars within the Republican Party. And he did say, I wasn't talking about the Freedom Caucus, which was a group of House conservatives who held a lot of sway within the GOP. But he had to clarify because he started to get criticism from the GOP. But he did say, quote, we have grifters in our midst. I mean, in the conservative movement, lie after lie after lie, because they know something psychologically about the conservative heart. We're worried about what people are going to do to us or what they're going to infringe upon us. So he calls them out for grifting and for playing into people's concerns. And they're exploiting those concerns for power. This is something I wish more Republicans had said, a year, 2 years ago, because right now it feels like too little, too late.
Yeah. And I would say it's not funny. The ironic thing to me is I don't think you even need any of this to win the midterms right now. You're going to win on the economy. You're going to win on the outcome of the COVID shutdowns. You're going to win on other things. You're going to win in part because this is what happens. We just talked about it with Rich Rubino. Every time you have that first midterm election with a newly elected president, you have a swing back. And I know that it's something that probably is something that a lot of folks have gotten to. Look, I got friends that still believe the same things, and every time I ask them the same thing and challenge them in the same way, if it happened the way that it did, where's the actual proof? Where's the evidence? Don't send me somebody saying that something happened. Show us some evidence that could have and should have been presented in court. Why wasn't it presented in court? Why weren't the claims made in court? And this is something we've addressed, I think, with Major Garrett a couple of weeks ago, because obviously this is part of the research he did for his book. But it's because if you make claims that you can't back up in a court, there's fallout. There are ramifications for doing that. You can say whatever you want on TV. You can say whatever you want in the newspaper. You can say whatever you want at a rally. But if you're going to make it in court, if you're going to make a claim in court, you have to back it up. You can't just walk in and claim, well, this happened. Okay, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? We don't have any. Bye.
Yeah, no, and you're right. What claims they're making in court, they're not there. They're not making the claims because there is no evidence. And if people are saying, well, wait a minute, Dan Crenshaw now is criticizing those who are denying the credibility of the 2020 election. Yes, he did support initially a Texas lawsuit that challenged Trump's defeat. It was like he got caught up in the wave, maybe didn't have what it took in the moment to stand up against it.
I mean, he may also have not had the information then that he has now.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have gone along with the team, for example, when you didn't have information. And then when you gained more information, you're like, okay, probably shouldn't be doing that.
But what he does talk about when he talks about the grifters and the liars, the quote, lie after lie after lie. I mean, he pointed out, you have this Freedom Caucus and you have various Republicans on the Freedom Caucus. Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, who you pointed out, who was something of a pariah because he's criticized Trump, he actually voted more in line with the Trump agenda during his first 2 years in office than, quote, everybody in the Freedom Caucus, all of them. So Dan Crenshaw's pointing out Adam Kinzinger, who has been critical of Trump, actually his voting history is more in line with Trump than anyone else who claims to be loyal to Trump, like those on the Freedom Caucus. And I think a line that Dan Crenshaw said really cuts to the heart of things. And it's what bothers me so much about the grifting aspect and the way Trump plays people. He said, quote, because they know something psychologically about the conservative heart. We're worried about what people are going to do to us, what they're going to infringe upon us. So again, it's that idea that society and culture is moving away from this more conservative traditional belief. They feel like they're being mocked, looked down on, called deplorables, being viewed as backwards.
Right.
And so they're worried about that. They have those fears. And so these grifters are playing into those fears. They're like poking the injury, saying, yes, this is what they think of you. Not only are they stealing the country from you, they are stealing the election, and they play into people's fears. Now, it doesn't take the culpability away from those who are voting for election deniers, but there's something of I'm going to use this phrase, it feels like a televangelist exploitation thing going on with these grifters. People who have genuine fears, or in the televangelist, right, somebody who's hurting, somebody who wants help or just wants to be heard. And these grifters in the Republican Party are saying, I see you, I hear you, I stand up for you. Trump hasn't lived your life. He's not a conservative. He has none of the traditional family values that you fear are going to be stripped away from you, but he plays into those fears, just as these grifters are playing into this idea of the country being stolen away. And that bothers me when you exploit people's genuine fears or insecurities, and they're being played.
One of the things that has always bothered me about the way the game of politics is played is I don't mind the arguments and the debates over policies. I don't mind. I think that's all like a healthy thing to argue about what we should be spending on and how much we should be spending in and where resources go. And like it's why the whole game is so ruined for me, because that's not even what we spend our time doing anymore. Mm-hmm. We spend our time talking about the social differences. We spend our time fighting what ends up being, it's a cliche at this point, but we're fighting culture wars. We're fighting against what you like to do, or how you believe versus how I believe. And none of this was ever intended to be that. This was not intended to be, I think it should be my way, so we're going to make it my way. It was intended to be a system where you would argue about how the government runs itself, how we institute policy, not how people live.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just changed. The entire argument now has turned toward cultural things and less towards specifically taxes and where they should go. How much should we spend on schools? How do we make things? How do we do the things that government is supposed to do?
Yeah.
As opposed to how do we keep people from doing things we don't like, and which ends up being what is that emotional thing that you're talking about, right? I mean, I don't understand how someone else's life takes anything away from you. I don't understand how we make those jumps. That if one group of people lives their lives a certain way, how does that harm me? It does nothing to me. But yet that's what the fight has become about in so many ways, because emotion is stronger than logic and reason. It's easier to react to emotional things as opposed to thinking about clinical things or academic things or actuarial tables or the accounting of how it all works. Those things are all boring and complex and they take time, but the emotional reaction is easy to get.
And especially when it's fear and or anger. Fear and anger, my goodness, that can drive people, and that can drive people to be extremely loyal to you. As I forgot who put it this way, but Trump wasn't so focused on having a lot of people like him. He wanted the people who liked him to be fiercely, unquestioningly loyal. And he got that. And part of that, again, is playing into the fears. What's interesting, and this is my view as a conservative, is reason why I have always been conservative is small government. I don't think the federal government does a lot of things well. I think it does some things well, but I don't think it is the federal government's job to be very involved in each and every one of our lives. Generally, progressives are in favor of more federal government involvement. What's interesting on the right is I have seen this push for more government involvement almost forcing people to have a certain set of morals. You can't do that. That's not how this works. That's why a lot of the push on the right is not conservative with a small government. It's this very aggressive, forceful right push that includes more government involvement.
We've gone from the only thing we have to fear is fear itself to we should all be afraid of everything all the time. That is exactly the change. I mean, that is the broad change. So again, how long ago was that now? 50 years, 60 years?
Not everything, just everything on the other side of the aisle.
No, but everybody, each aisle is saying it.
Yeah.
So like all we've gone from the point where, hey, the only thing we have to fear is that fear that's in all of us to you should be afraid of everything.
What's that?
All the time.
Will Ferrell movie where he's running around, everybody panic.
Everybody panic, which is essentially what tomorrow. I hope it's not what tomorrow looks like, but it certainly has that feel. Chris Ranji's not here. Amy Mark Scores, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Ron will be back tomorrow. This is the show on KMOX.
This time of year, you might notice that the brick in your patio is going astray. Call Morelli. Hi, this is Charlie Brennan for Morelli Tuck Pointing, which has won every award possible in this industry, including the Better Business Bureau Torch Award, which is only given to companies with exceptional customer service. Morelli Tuck Pointing is the masonry specialist, serving St. Louis and beyond for 31 years. Morelli can do completely solid houses and buildings, spot pointing with color match, brick and stone repair, foundation repair, walkways, porches, patios, caulking, waterproofing solutions, and much more. Family owned and operated, and a lot of longtime employees that are like family. Call and request a free and quick estimate at 314-645-1387 or online at MorelliTuckPointing.com. And don't forget to check out their great reviews on the Google and Better Business Bureau websites. 314-645-1387 or MorelliTuckPointing.com.
Hey there, it's Hancock and Kelly for First Mid-Bank and Trust, a local bank right here in St. Louis with over 157 years of experience and 19 locations across the greater St. Louis area.
Yeah, First Mid-Bank and Trust is perfect for small business owners. You need a partner that you can count on, and that is First Mid-Bank and Trust, and they're great for everybody, whether you're saving for your first home, paying off debt, or planning for retirement. Check them out online, firstmid.com. You'll be glad you did.
Learn about the history and lessons of the Holocaust at the newly renovated St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum, reopening November 2nd. Membership and tickets for individual and group tours at stlholocaustmuseum.org.
Alexei Janulius's past is littered with scandals, fiscal mismanagement, and shady behavior. As state treasurer, he lost over $150 million of college savings funds with risky investments. And his family bank was seized after loans were made to Russian mafia members.
I'm Dan Brady, and I have a plan to improve the Secretary of State's office by cutting wait lines, increasing senior services, and reducing license plate renewal fees. We need someone we can trust as our next Secretary of State, and that's me, Dan Brady.
Paid for by friends of Dan Brady.
Staying warm this winter is the utmost importance for your family and your employees. So when it comes to residential or commercial electric, Reinhold Electric is the answer. I'm going to give you their number in just a moment, but if you have any issues with power to your furnaces, baseboard heaters, hanging electric heaters maybe in your shop or your garage, floor heat, driveway heat, snow melt systems, how about backup generators? Because when the power goes out during winter storms, there is nothing like having a backup generator in line that will fire up as soon as the public utilities shut down. It's a phenomenal experience. My father installed one years ago. It's the best money he ever spent. Reinhold Electric can do that for you. So when you have a residential or commercial need of electric work being done, call on Reinhold Electric. They work all over the area, all the way down to Lake of the Ozarks as well. Call them at 314-631-1158. That's 314-631-1158. And online at ReinholdElectric.com. Tell them Bo sent you to Reinhold Electric.
Bring your family to the 4th annual Moolah Festival of Trees to experience a winter wonderland with over 40 exquisitely decorated Christmas trees with amazing gift packages November 19th through 26th at the Moolah Shrine. Purchase raffle tickets for just $1 for a chance to take home one or more of these creative and beautifully designed trees, including the gifts, which include toys, tools, sports items, kayaks, barbecue pits, gift cards, and even a complete HVAC system for your home. Tree values range from $500 to over $12,000. The Festival of Trees is an exciting Christmas event for all ages.
you can take a souvenir photo with Santa Claus to capture a memory of the spirit of Christmas. And be sure to visit Santa's Cafe for some refreshing treats. Adult admission is $2. Kids 12 and under are free at the Moolah Shrine Center at 12545 Fifi Road. Details at moolah.org.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com.
Furnish hope right here in St. Louis. Donate your unneeded furniture and household goods to Home Sweet Home. Visit www.homesweethomestl.org to learn more.
Everybody knows you gotta get it at Clement. Everybody knows you gotta get it at Clement. Find the car you want, new or used. Get it at Clement, get pre-approved. Everybody knows you gotta get it at Clement. Everybody knows you gotta get it at Clement. ClementAutoGroup.com.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444. They're back.
Three best friends. The three amigos.
Yeah. Kevin, Chris, and Amy. The show.
Welcome to 1977. I don't even know when this made. I just made that up because it sounds like 1977 to me.
Do they say a year in this song?
I don't know.
I think I was thinking of the
All I
other
know
one
is
of
it's very odd.
1969. There's another song that has to do with dates.
I don't know.
This is the 21st night of
I
September.
think it was weird. We didn't get to this last week. We started to get to, but we've been kind of following this story over the course of the weekend, and we have no resolution to the mystery of the missing cobra.
Don't you think of all the stories to not have a resolution to, this one's kind of concerning?
No.
It's one of the world's deadliest venomous snakes.
Yeah,
and he could be in Chesterfield for all we know.
But it didn't just escape. Somebody took it.
Allegedly.
I mean, come on.
Hey, you know what they say about assuming?
No, it wasn't assuming. That was the person who owned the snake said, yeah, the snake didn't get out. It couldn't get out. It was in a sealed container blocked up by other containers, which means a human being had to move them and then not let the snake out, but take the snake out. And they examined the entire area. And by the way, this was at Venom Fest, which, again, cool. I mean, I don't have a problem with, I'm not going to make fun of anything that people have an interest in. I like Star Wars and Game of Thrones and sports stuff. So it's not like I can make fun.
But you can. I think if you're a dorky person, you can make fun of dorky
but
things.
I mean, I can't say that it's dorky because then, I guess I can if I'm acknowledging that my stuff is dorky
I'm
too.
acknowledging that my stuff is dorky.
Venom Fest was going on over the weekend, and they had a snake stolen.
So let me just say,
and I don't know how that works. I don't know anything about this business, so I don't want to judge whether or not this is good security, bad security, weird thing. Maybe this is a guy that this person really knows what they're doing. I have no idea. All I know is that the story makes it sound like there's a cobra on the loose.
Mm-hmm. It could be.
It's not.
Could be.
It's not. And by the way, they don't do well in colder temperatures, so the nighttime would not be good. They searched the entire area that the exposition was taking place. No sign that any cobra has made its way through there. It was 100%, 99.9% stolen and taken by someone who either wanted a free pet or was going to turn around and sell it.
Yeah, that's what you would think. That's what, I mean, I'm hoping that this person is taking good care of this venomous snake and didn't just let it out to either die or terrify communities. But no, it's a super deadly venomous snake. As far as Venom Fest going, judging whether or not, like you said, I'm the dorkiest of dorky. I don't think it's dorky. I was just more surprised that I didn't know it existed.
Oh, yeah, there's so many things like
I didn't
this
know that was a
people
thing.
don't know.
Venom Fest sounds like a 2-day concert with a metal band named Venom.
Well, there is a metal band named Venom.
Is there?
There is, yes.
Doesn't Venom Fest sound
It
like
also
a
could
concert?
have sounded like a comic book thing from the comic book character Venom.
Oh.
Foiled Spider-Man. But no, it's an full-grown Egyptian cobra went missing, and the people that owned it previously said, yeah, it's stolen.
Trish Gazal said it was late December 1963. That's the other song. Oh, what a night, Frankie Valley.
Oh, all right, great.
It was a date song.
Good job on the callback.
Trish is awesome.
We'll come back to the top stories in the world in the new world of the news coming up after the news here on KMOX.
Women's health decisions should be between herself and her doctor, not up to politicians like Jennifer Cordy. Cordy won't protect a woman's right to choose. She'll ban it completely. Cordy says women who are raped and then end the pregnancy are making a decision they regret later.
Politicians like Jennifer Cordy will make us less safe and less free. I'm Katie Stewart, candidate for state representative. I'll protect a woman's right to choose and ensure women have access to critical health services. I'm committed to ending violence against women by investing in domestic violence shelters and health care for survivors. I'm Katie Stewart. I'm fighting to make our communities safer. I voted to increase funding for more police and high-tech crime-fighting resources. It's why I've been endorsed by the FOP.
I trust Katie Stewart to make the right choice for all women in the state of Illinois.
I'm Katie Stewart. I'm focused on real results for our families. Paid for by Friends for Katie Stewart.
Caring for residents for over a century, Manor Grove is committed to making everyone feel at home. Choosing a home for your loved one to reside is an important decision and shouldn't be taken lightly. Manor Grove makes your decision easy with medical professionals and staff who care for residents like family. If you are looking for a caring and quality nursing home and rehab facility, please visit our website, manorgrove.com, and take our virtual tour. Manor Grove, over a century of caring. Welcome home to Manor Grove.
Hello, I'm Senator Carla May, and I'm asking for your vote. However, there are a few things I need you to know. A photo ID is required to vote in person, and it can't be expired. That means a Missouri driver's license or state ID, a military ID, including a veteran's ID card, a United States passport, or some other Missouri or federal ID. Also, make sure you know where you're going to cast your vote. And remember, early voting starts Tuesday, October the 25th. Come on, we can do this. I'm counting on you.
This is paid for by Citizens for Carla May.
KMOX, KECK HD2, K254CR, St. Louis.
The legendary voice of St. Louis, KMOX. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Julia owed the IRS thousands.
I was paralyzed with fear.
Then
I heard a commercial for Optima Tax Relief.
Optima Tax Relief is the leading tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and experts in the Fresh Start Initiative.
Optima Tax Relief settled my IRS tax bill.
Call Optima now for a free consultation.
It was amazing.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Hello, my name is Chad with ClaymanGroup.com. I have another happy client of ours that just sold their house as is.
Hi, I'm Chris. I called the real estate agent and they gave me a list of 75 things to prepare my house for sale. I called the Clayman Group and spoke to Chad and his team, and they bought my house as is. I didn't have to do anything at all.
If you want a simple solution to your real estate needs as well, reach out today. Clayman, KLAMEN Group.com. KLAMEN Group.com.
Mid-America's most trusted source for news. KMOX.
At 12 noon, it's a sunny sky and 60 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun. Our top story this hour. Thomas Holbrook, the St. Clair County clerk, says he's seeing a shift in voters following a change to Illinois election laws, which allows for a permanent vote-by-mail option.
We're up about 10,000 vote-by-mails. We're down about 10,000 early voting site people, but we're not done yet. I look for today to have a pretty good surge on that. The closer you get, the more interest.
Holbrook says the county is prepared for in-person voting with almost 1,000 Election Day workers scheduled. The closest contest tomorrow could be the recreational marijuana issue in Missouri. That's according to Dr. Terry Smith, a political science professor at Columbia College. He says those opposed to it are gaining a foothold.
The fact that it's a constitutional amendment rather than just a legislative law, a referendum that would become law and could be adjusted by the legislature.
Downtown and downtown west saw an increase in car break-ins over the weekend.
St. Louis Police Major Renee Kreisman says with any crime, they ebb and flow.
So 32 is a little bit higher than some of the other weekends, but we've certainly had
bigger weekends with more car break-ins.
Creasman says police are working on identifying exact locations of the cars and whether or not it's a group that's committing these crimes. In recent weeks, according to previous public safety briefings, the average car break-ins reported have been hovering around 12 or less. Maria Kina, KMOX News.
Powerball on the brain.
Tonight's Powerball is an estimated $1.9 billion after 40 consecutive games with no winner.
I love the math. You know, there's no chance that any one ticket's going to win, but statistics are fun.
And statistics are what led Yadira to decide on this today.
You know, I was playing $20. I just played $2 today because I figured, you know what? If I didn't win with 20, maybe I'll win with 2.
If a winner takes the lump sum, it's $929 million before taxes. Matt Piper, CBS News, New York.
KMOX Sports, the season opener for the St. Louis University Billikens basketball team is tonight. Play-by-play man Bob Ramsey says the team is still wanting to, 1, subdue turnovers, and 2, improve defense.
If they can clean up those two things, and maybe it won't be where Travis wants it day one, but as we move through the season, look for those things to be cleaned up, and as they are, that's when you know you've really got something.
The Billikens welcome in the Murray State Racers with KMOX coverage beginning at 6:47. And the First Mid-Bank and Trust Business Desk, cutbacks in another social network.
Facebook parent Meta Platforms reportedly will start laying off thousands of workers this week. According to the Wall Street Journal, the job cuts could come as early as Wednesday. Meta has been struggling with growing losses. According to Donna Hope, Bloomberg Radio.
Down from Stiefel is up 273 points. And we've got debris 364 east at Maryland Heights Expressway, the right lane. Stalled vehicle I-170 north before St. Charles Rock Road. That's on the right shoulder.
Sunny skies and a cooler afternoon than recent days. We'll stay in the low to mid 60s. Another similar day tomorrow. And then we're back in the low to mid 70s Wednesday and Thursday before a very chilly air mass comes in for the weekend. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Dean DeVore and the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Sunny, 59 Florissant, 59 St. Peter's, 60 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444.
$12:04, Amy Mark scores. Kevin Wheeler hanging out with you. Chris Raj will be back tomorrow. Obviously, this is where we kind of recap some of the top stories of the day. Of course, the midterms tomorrow, the elections tomorrow have been near the top of the list. We talked to Rich Rubino about these trends. Certainly seems all but certain that the House is going to flip. Talking nationally, that the House of Representatives is going to flip. That seems like an agreed upon fact.
Yeah.
Wait, not many of those these days.
I know.
But that's something that both analysts on the Democratic and Republican side agree that it is going to happen.
And I did hear this morning on Total Information AM, I think it was Maria, but just talking to election officials across the area and how they're excited about tomorrow. I mean, this is the great American activity, is casting your vote. And I do think that while we've focused on some of the negative things that have happened in Arizona or Michigan with people watching the ballot boxes with, armed to the teeth, I think overall, the vast majority of polling stations, polling places, communities, it's peaceful and it's fun. I feel patriotic voting. I love going to the polls and voting. I've never had a bad experience. We talked to our good friend Chris Kerber the other day, how he went to the Daniel Boone Library branch to vote early and how all the lines looked super long at first. It was so well run that it went quickly. He was in and out in less than 25 minutes. I think for most people, tomorrow should be a day of celebration. I mean, if you're happy, not happy with what's going on in the government, we get to cast a vote.
There's also a lot of fact-checking going on in these final hours before the election tomorrow. There's a lot of people working hard to make sure that claims being made in stump speeches are accurate. They're one big concern. We're going to talk about TikTok a little bit later on, but one big concern at the moment is that there's a lot of misinformation spreading there. Then these quick videos. And look, I understand how the algorithm works, right? I play around on TikTok. I don't post or anything. I probably should, Probably be a big hit if I did.
I have some tortillas here. That
There
you
you go.
can
Let's do
slap
the
somebody
tortilla
with a
challenge
tortilla.
during the break. Well, it would have to be you.
Oh,
You or Dave,
You
because
could
we're the
slap
only
Dave.
ones in the room.
Yeah.
So we could do that. But I understand how the algorithm works because, like, once you start seeing something, it says, he likes this thing. Here's a lot more of that. So whether it was the tortilla challenge, which a couple months ago I was watching a lot of because it's hilarious. It's not as hilarious anymore now you've seen it a million times. But I like the scare prank videos. Guess what happens almost every time I click on there? Those are going to be right there near the top.
Yeah.
And it knows what you like, and it's going to feed you what you've been looking at. Right? You're going to get more. It's essentially, that's how all of the algorithms work. That's how Facebook works. That's how Twitter works to a degree, but less so than TikTok. It just seems like TikTok might have the most powerful algorithm of all. Plus, it's a very quick visual medium, visual and audio medium. So a message can be delivered very quickly. And by the way, a lot of these people are really good at the editing portion of it to make it look good, sound good. And, fact checkers at the moment are having a hard time keeping up.
Yeah.
With all of the different ways that bad information or intentional misleading information is being put out there.
Yeah.
Like one of the things they're fighting on TikTok, there's a trend where there are people, there's some message that's circulating pretty heavily that essentially saying hackers can get in and change all the votes, so don't even bother voting. It's not worth your time. Like, all right, well, that's a problem. Like, clearly not true, number one. Like, clearly false. Everybody we've talked to in the elections process is like, yeah, these machines aren't even connected to the internet, man. What are you even talking
But
about?
that's like quite literally not the internet connectivity, but the not counting part is exactly why Trump
Right.
told people not to vote in Georgia during the Senate runoff elections, and over 700,000 people who voted in the primary election or the general election did not vote 2 months later in the runoff. And you can point a finger at the president. He said exactly that. Hey, speaking of algorithms and social media, we've talked a lot about Twitter and how Elon Musk is. I think I texted and asked you guys, is he drunk? It was so bizarre seeing his random tweets.
You mean perpetually?
Perpetually. But Jack Dorsey, the founder and former CEO of Twitter, he apologized this weekend on Saturday to the social media company's employees because thousands of them were laid off. Elon Musk said to cut costs because he's made a huge financial blunder by buying Twitter, at least initially. And Jack Dorsey said that he grew the company size too quickly and that, quote, I own the responsibility for why everyone is in this situation. I grew the company size too quickly. I apologize for that. And I got to tell you, no, yes, I can see where you do start bringing on more employees than you need to run a company and it's no longer economic at that moment. I'm a little surprised by this Jack Dorsey apology. He has also said that, he was part of the problem because he helped found Twitter, founded Twitter, of centralizing social media. And Twitter is so centralized and all the power is right there when it comes to the movers and shakers. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way that he was apologizing. Like, this is my fault. No, it's Elon Musk's fault.
Yeah, it's Elon. It's all him. Like all of this nonsense that's happening now. Did you see just a couple hours ago, too? This is right as we were speaking about this at the beginning of the show. He tweeted out, "Two independent-minded voters. Shared power curbs the worst excesses of both parties. Therefore, I recommend voting for a Republican Congress, given that the presidency is Democratic." That's what he just tweeted out a day before Election Day as the guy who just purchased Twitter. And again, fine. Look, it's your company. You can do what you want. But if your argument is, I don't know, there's something weird to me about somebody that acts like a dictator talking about balancing power.
Yeah.
Who's balancing? I know it's a business versus the government. I get it. But the very clear problem with guys like Elon is that nobody has ever checked them. The moment they become famous, the moment they become billionaires, everybody is yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And you've made it very clear that you're getting rid of anybody that might disagree with you.
Yeah. No, it's
So the principle, sure, okay, I don't disagree with the principle that shared power is a better thing or is a good thing in general because you don't want one group to be able to dominate another. But that's not how he operates.
Yeah, I'm not sure how
If
much.
you believe in that, you should maybe, I don't know, do the same.
I'm not sure how much he's operating on principle as he is so much on impulse, and who
Yeah, that's
happens
fair,
to bruise his ego at any given time. There was a tweet from a company, Morning Brew, that I'll follow, and they tweeted out a screenshot of Elon Musk's tweets and just saying life comes at you fast. In January of 2021, Elon Musk tweeted, legalize comedy. Then just a couple days ago, he tweeted, comedy is now legal on Twitter. And then yesterday, he said, going forward, any Twitter handles engaging in impersonation without clearly specifying parody will be permanently suspended.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't mind weaponizing Twitter or comedy or parody or satire or the government as long as I'm weaponizing it against my enemies. As soon as it's turned on me, then that's wrong.
That's the problem. Yes, make jokes, just don't make them at my expense. All right, stick around. We got Matt Pauley coming up at 12:30. We'll talk about the Cardinals' new coaching staff, or at least the new members of it. A couple other baseball things we'll run by with our buddy Matt Pauley as well. Fred Bottomer is going to join us to talk about 40 years at KMOX. That's next on the show.
Away from the midterms that will impact the direction of this country. You're being bombarded with messages. Good luck sifting through the information yourself.
When I do a search on Google and you do a search on Google, we're getting very different results.
What are media outlets responsible for?
You hold your nose and you air the ad.
Information, misinformation, disinformation, and the midterms coverage you'll find only on KMOX.
You know, the Midwest Money slogan, isn't cash in the bank better than scrap in the drawer? This is Johnny Rabbit. Midwest Money, the oldest coin shop in St. Louis. Buying, selling, and trading since 1971. Silver and gold, coins, sterling silver, flags, medals, daggers, and more. Not sure what you have? Bring your collectibles to someone you can trust. Midwest Money, at the corner of Hampton and Holly Hills. You'll be happy you did.
You're not just looking for a doctor. You're looking for a way to feel better. At Archwell Health, our team is devoted to improving the lives of seniors like you. Barbara was ready to try chair yoga for the first time. She took one of our classes and met friends along the way. James chatted with his doctor and the team dietitian and got to the bottom of his dizzy spells. Archwell Health members enjoy a community of comprehensive care because you are more than a patient. Join today at archwellhealth.com/livewell.
The Musial Awards return to Stiefel Theater on Saturday, November 19th. You can be in the audience for this nationally televised event right here in St. Louis. Join an all-star lineup of good sports, including Albert Pujols. Tickets at musialawards.com.
Men, if you're struggling with erectile dysfunction or PE and frustrated taking pills that don't work, Paramount Men's Medical Center offers breakthrough medical treatments that effectively treat your problem. 98% of patients experience immediate results during their first office visit. And for a limited time, your initial consultation and first treatment are completely free. Listen to a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Brown. The physicians at Paramount Men's Medical Center offer the most advanced treatments that eliminate ED and PE. Now men are lasting 30, 60, 90 minutes or longer, regardless of age or medical history.
Guys, to eliminate your frustration in the bedroom, call Paramount Men's Medical Center now to take advantage of this exclusive limited-time offer. Your initial consultation and first treatment are totally free, and you'll see instant results right in the office. Call now, 314-720-8081. 314-720-8081. That's 314-720-8081.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-day kitchen and bath.
I had heard about 3-day kitchen and bath. I kind of always dismissed it thinking, well, nobody can do that in 3 days. I wanted somebody who was going to come when they said they would come and, do what they said they were going to do. What I liked best was having it done in, less than a week, the whole thing from top to bottom. Nobody could believe that I really had it done that fast. They absolutely held up to every single thing that they agreed to. I especially loved the fact that I didn't have to go out all over town. The overall quality was very good. You know, all the workmanship was so excellent. They'll definitely do exactly what they say they're going to do. There's no surprises, no added costs later. They stay until everything's exactly the way you want it, and you're done.
Thanks, Lori. Check us out online at 3daykitchen.com.
At 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Matza Matt here for Brewpub Lots of Matza Pizzas. This Veterans Day, we honor all of those who courageously, selflessly, and humbly served or are currently serving the United States of America. Leaving your families and loved ones to perform the duty that you were called to for the sake of our country is nothing short of heroic, and for that, we hold you in high regard. Thank you for the sacrifice you made so that we, as Americans, can enjoy the liberties we have today. Thank you for your determination to grant us the freedoms that we enjoy on a daily basis. You have our support, our gratitude, and most of all, you have our thanks.
When you vote tomorrow, be sure to finish your ballot and vote for your judges. Missouri's judicial system gives voters the final say in retaining their judges. So know your judges before you vote. Visit yourmissouriJudges.org and learn about the nonpartisan judges up for retention this year. That's yourmissouriJudges.org. It's up to you to help make sure we have skilled, fair, and impartial judges. Know your judges and finish the ballot proudly. Visit yourmissouriJudges.org.
Paid for by the Missouri Bar, Misha Epps, Executive Director.
Nearly a century of informing, entertaining, and serving St. Louis. KMOX.
Hello, Fred Bottenheimer over there, ladies and gentlemen.
Hell of an introduction from our friend Kenny Wallace.
Can't do better than that.
So I call you Fred Bottenheimer all the time, and Steve even said, he's like, you need to stop saying that because you have convinced yourself that's really his name.
I was at an event over the weekend, and people were calling me that. When I was introduced Bottomer,
Yeah.
somebody in the crowd get up, you mean Bottenheimer? So
It took off.
I've come to embrace it.
Well, Fred Bottomer's with us here on the show. Amy and Kevin here. Chris Ranji is out because we're celebrating, Fred, 40 years at KMOX. So we have Rosalita's Mexican food for you here. Was there a cake? There's a cake in the back.
There's a sheet cake
Nice.
with a big picture of me on it, which is very scary.
Nice.
I'm going to go look at that during the break. So
Is it like a Putin style where you're like shirtless riding a horse type picture?
No, but I have a really bad mustache.
I know what picture you're talking about. It's a glorious mustache.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
So for those, I mean, everybody knows Fred's name, but Fred is our religion editor. He's our health editor. He is Mark Reardon's producer on 97.1, but also when he was here. And I was going to ask how you handled 40 years, but I want to start with how do you handle Mark? And I say that as a friend of Mark, and people that don't know that, Mark and I are buddies. But so flash us back. Okay, so this is 1982. You're fresh out of journalism school, and you show up here at KMOX. What's the world like? What's KMOX like 40 years ago?
It had no computers, obviously. We just had manual or electric typewriters. You had to put carbon paper in between each story that you wrote, so you could have 5 copies of each story.
That's incredible.
Bob Hardy and Rex Davis were doing morning drive. And then Bob Hardy was back at noon. Jack Carney was 9 till noon. Jim White was late at night.
This was before Charlie Brennan even graced the airwaves.
In fact, Charlie kept such good notes that I was looking at his diary of when he started. And it was a few years after me.
Yeah.
And his day one, he said, I spent a lot of time finding out what I can and can't do at KMOX from Fred Bottomer and Ann Keith. So even on Charlie's first day, he mentioned that
Were you showing him what he should or shouldn't be doing?
I was telling him what he should do.
Okay.
Yeah. But on my first day, I guess I was nervous, but I came in and I went into the wrong office. I went into the general manager, Robert Hyland's office by mistake. And I walked in there and there's this huge desk and all sorts of crystal. And his executive assistant, Norma Wallner, comes up to me real quick and puts her arm around me. And she goes, "Oh, honey, you don't want to be in here." and she led me out and took me around the corner into the newsroom.
That's great.
So that was my first time. at
You
KMOX.
always know you're in trouble when someone gives you the "oh honey." I've had that before, and it's always something that is disastrous.
Well, today, like around 11:45, Beth Coughlin, the news director, came into the studio where I was working, and she said, "Come with me for a moment."
Mm.
And that only happens like when
Yeah.
you're being escorted out of the building.
Right.
I'm thinking, wow, they
Bring your
picked my
key card.
40th anniversary to fire me. And then I walked through the newsroom, and there was no one in the newsroom. So then it's like, oh, something's going on that I don't want to happen. So yeah, then I went into the conference room and everybody was there, and it was very nice. I didn't expect any of it.
That's so funny that your first thought was they've picked my 40th anniversary to fire me. In the same way you try to get your gas tank to exactly $50, you
Yeah.
know? It's
Yeah,
they were
right.
they were trying to just keep it nice and even. Do certain moments stand out to you now that you're taking a quick breath, because I know you'll be back to work in 5 minutes, but do certain moments from your career stand out to you either as hilarious or terrifying or unbelievable?
It was probably all three in one. I interviewed the Dalai Lama. So
wow.
I had to go to his hotel, and when he was staying in town, and I went to like a big room, and it was like a makeshift throne or something that he was sitting on. And I had to kind of like kneel down to get the mic to his mouth because there was no other way to get the mic to him.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed him for 10 or 15 minutes, and it went great. But when it was over, I couldn't really stand up because my legs had fallen asleep. So I got up so slowly. And so that was a moment of embarrassment that I'll always remember.
How old were you when you got to do that?
When I interviewed the Dalai Lama, I must have been 30, I guess.
Oh, man.
'Cause that must have been 1990, something like that.
Did you ever have a disastrous interview? I know Debbie had her famously disastrous interview with Duran Duran because she was so excited to talk to them that she just like blew it.
I don't think I've ever had a disastrous interview. I think what I've been in the wake of a disastrous interview. I've interviewed someone right after they were on Charlie's show. Charlie and Kevin Horrigan's show.
Yeah.
And they were talking to evangelist Robert Schuller. And I don't think that interview went really well. And so as soon as he was done with that interview, he came over into my studio to be interviewed for the World of Religion show, which I was doing then. And it was very cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Chilly.
Chilly, yeah. So not cool and like fun, but
yeah,
like
but no one's, there's not been any interviews that have blown up in my face or anything. Everybody's been really nice.
Do you remember some of the famous names to walk the hallowed halls of KMOX over the course? And I say famous names, and my first thought is the Karate Kid, because I saw this picture of Charlie with Ralph Macchio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just some of the old Jack Lemmon and Tony Randall were in studio.
Yeah, Barry Manilow. They had a catered meal for Barry Manilow when he was here.
Oh.
That was kind of cool. All the Miss Universe pageants, our Miss Universe contestants were here for a Fair St. Louis VP Fair event.
Wait, all of them?
Yeah, they were having the
crazy.
contest in St. Louis. And Mr. Hyland invited all of them over, and so they watched the fireworks from the balcony. And when I got off the elevator, I noticed this line for the women's room, and it's like, holy cow! And they all had
holy cow
sashes on.
because of the number?
No, because
or
it was
the
like,
holy cow. These are all
these were all beauty contestants.
Yeah.
So that was a good memory.
Charlie Brennan and Chris Myhill hanging out in the hallway that day.
Interviewing Billy Graham in person was kind of interesting. I had to go over to the convention center and interview him, and I was so afraid of messing it up that I took 2 microphones with me.
Yeah.
And 2 recorders. So if one recorder messed up, I'd have it on another one. But I held the microphones together, and I was so nervous. When I listened to the tape, my microphones were clicking against each other for the whole interview. So I was able to kill that sound a little bit.
So was that the one? Because what I was going to follow that with was the interview that you were most nervous going into. Was that it?
Yeah, I think Billy Graham was. Mother Teresa was very nice. That was a nice
now
one.
she wouldn't see right. You know, it's funny because like that wouldn't seem intimidating because of her demeanor and what her life is all about. You're not going to be judged by Mother Teresa.
But see, I would be afraid that I was going to be
Oh
judged.
no!
And the Dalai Lama was very jovial.
Yeah,
like
did he have?
always
He's
is.
the strange voice, right?
Yeah. No, I think other famous people to walk the hallways. I mean, at one time we would have the Ask the Governor show, and the governor would come and host his own show and, push his own buttons. I think Governor Ashcroft started it.
Really?
So that was kind of interesting. But we've had vice presidents, I'm trying to think if we had a president. I know when Bill Clinton was on with Charlie and Kevin Horrigan, that was on phone.
Yeah.
But there's always been all sorts of people.
What were you like as a kid? Did you want to be a journalist? Were you curious? Did you want to be a broadcaster?
I always wanted to work for KMOX.
Really?
I grew up listening, my first memories in 1964 of listening to the World Series on KMOX and seeing Mr. Hyland when I was 12, and I wanted his autograph. And
Wow.
he said, go get that guy. And it was Bob Hardy. And so he gave me his autograph, and 12 years later, I was working for him.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing. I mean, that's just, and again, I know everybody jokes, but this business is so crazy to be able to pull off 40 years. And I know it's a little less crazy in general around KMOX than it is in other places, but still 40 years is amazing, Fred.
I think I just lay low.
You're always hiding in one of those little studios.
Stay below the line of fire. You don't have anything to worry about, right?
That's right.
Well,
And it's just been a lot of fun. I love all of you guys.
Well, you're the best, Fred.
I love you.
Congratulations. And thank you for everything. I mean,
you're welcome.
not just since we've been here. I mean, I've known you for a long time since I've been here. You've always been great and been very helpful, but also just a fun guy to be around. Thanks for doing this. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it all.
That's Fred Bottomer, 40 years at the Mighty Mox. Matt Pauley's coming up on maybe 40 days.
Yeah.
Something like that. He's going to join us next here on the show.
I only know what life looks like and feels like through my eyeballs. It's my life. I wonder if anyone is where they thought they would be. I'm not where I thought I would be even 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Life changes so much. Yeah, hey, make your plans, do what you want to do, whether it's marriage or kids or your job or your health.
Discover the life of Dave Glover.
I'm surprised at how surprising life is.
Weekday afternoons beginning at 2, only on KMOX.
KMOX News Time is 12:28. Donate a car, get a tax receipt, and tickets to the St. Louis Aquarium at mersgoodwill.org.
I'm Tim Fitch, former chief of the St. Louis County Police Department. At a time when violent crime threatens our kids and our communities, we need tough leaders who will stand against criminals and with our men and women in law enforcement. That's why I support Dennis Hancock for St. Louis County Council. Dennis Hancock is endorsed by the St. Louis County Fraternal Order of Police. His opponent? She's backed by groups that want to defund the police. As the mayor of Fenton, Dennis Hancock didn't make excuses for criminals, he locked them up. Dennis proudly worked with law enforcement to keep our streets and our families safe. And that's exactly what he'll do on the St. Louis County Council. I hope you'll join me in supporting Dennis Hancock this November.
Dennis Hancock for St. Louis County Council. Reform St. Louis County Now is responsible for the content of this advertising. Paid for by Reform St. Louis County Now, firesampage.com, and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This is Debbie Monterey with a real estate update and some insight from my friend and trusted realtor, Gloria Liu, with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria told me that sitting on the sidelines may not be the best strategy moving forward in this continually shifting market. Homes aren't selling as quickly, and in most cases, price reductions are becoming pretty common. Gloria also said that earlier this year, with low inventory, sellers didn't need a strategy to sell homes because homes were listed and sold immediately. Now more than ever, it's crucial to have a proven strategy to get your home sold, and that's why I strongly suggest you call local real estate expert Gloria Liu before you list your home to get the absolute most money. Gloria is so confident that she will sell your home, she'll guarantee in writing upfront to sell it at your agreed-to price and time frame, or she'll buy your home herself. Learn more by calling Gloria Liu at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or online at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
At 12:30, it's sunny and 61 degrees downtown at the Arch. A day ahead of the crucial midterm elections, voters in Atlanta are weighing the issues top of their minds.
Well, I think inflation is probably first and foremost for me. Women's rights is right there. I'm not too concerned about gun control.
A familiar face will host this year's Oscars.
Jimmy Kimmel will host the Oscars next year. He's been the face 2 times before, in 2018 and the year before, when the wrong Best Picture was called.
This year, when you hear your name called, don't get up right away. Give us a minute. We don't want another thing.
It will be 1 year since the infamous slap of Chris Rock by Will Smith when the show was hosted by 3 women. Kimmel's wife is an executive producer of his late-night talk show, as well as of the Oscars broadcast. It'll be held Sunday, March 12th. Matt Piper, CBS News.
Laying out the welcome, Matt.
3 former Peloton executives are starting a new business selling custom rugs online. Their company is called Ernesta. Customers will be able to buy custom designed and cut rugs at roughly the same price as store-bought ones starting next spring. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Weather is sponsored by Reinhold Flooring, and this afternoon, sunshine, but still cooler with the high of 63. Some clouds and chilly overnight, the low 40 to 45. For tomorrow, sun and clouds with a high of 64. Want beautiful first-class flooring at a competitive price? Call Reinhold Flooring. With professional craftsmen and a knowledgeable, caring sales staff that helped earn them St. Louis Magazine's best flooring store 2 years in a row. Schedule a free in-home measuring consultation at reinholdflooring.com. It's sunny and 61 downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Get 4 tickets to the St. Louis Aquarium when you donate your car to Goodwill. It's easy, towing is free, and you'll get a tax receipt too. Dive in and check it out at mersgoodwill.org.
Give hope. Give local. Give Goodwill.
Driven by the Bomarito Automotive Group, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Alexi Giannoulias' past is littered with scandals, fiscal mismanagement, and shady behavior. As state treasurer, he lost over $150 million of college savings funds with risky investments. And his family bank was seized after loans were made to Russian mafia members.
I'm Dan Brady, and I have a plan to improve the Secretary of State's office by cutting wait lines, increasing senior services, and reducing license plate renewal fees. We need someone we can trust as our next Secretary of State, and that's me, Dan Brady.
Paid for by friends of Dan Brady.
If you own a house in St. Louis and you want to sell it as is, without any inspections or the need to make any repairs, call Chris Buys Homes St. Louis at 314-328-8000 or at chrisbuyshomes.louis.com and get your cash offer without any obligations, commissions, banks, or headaches. Chris buys vacant houses, inherited houses, fixer-uppers, beautiful houses, even the tenant won't pay the rent apartment. Google Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis. That's Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis, and check out the best reviews from satisfied customers. When you sell to Chris, you decide when you want to move, according to your schedule and your terms. Go to chrisbuyshomesinstlouis.com. Google Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis or call 314-328-8000. That's 314-328-8000. Call Chris and get the offer you've been waiting for. Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis.com. That's Chris Buys Homes in St. Louis.com or call 314-328-8000.
Your home of the Cardinals.
Arnado swings and hits it deep to left field. That ball is out of there.
The Billikens.
Jumper. Yes! Billikens win!
The Chiefs.
Touchdown! Kansas City!
We are America's sports voice, KMOX.
All right, coming up on 12:35 on the show. 12:30 means Redbird Report. Amy Marks, course, Kevin Wheeler hanging out with you here. Chris Ranji is out today. He'll be back tomorrow. Matt Pauley is with us. How you doing, Matt?
Good. How are you guys?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Been a busy day. Obviously, busy weekend for the Cardinals and for Cardinals fans. We got some news almost immediately after the World Series came to a close. The Cardinals announced the guys that'll be stepping in as a part of the coaching staff for next year. And I guess that's probably as good a place as any to start, Matt. Speaking of Matt, the big name involved in all that, the one that's got everybody excited, is Matt Holliday returning to the Cardinals as the bench coach. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's good to see him return, and he's somebody who's been coaching at the collegiate level here recently at Oklahoma State, along with his brother, who leads things there in that program. Yeah, I know Cardinal fans are obviously loving it. He's a Cardinals Hall of Famer. He had a huge impact as a player, and he's been coaching. You know, he's a bench coach. I think we talked about this when the announcements were first made about the coaches who were leaving. I would have liked to have seen kind of one of those grizzled, old school baseball guys ending up on the staff. That didn't happen. If that's not going to happen, then going with a guy who's coaching at the college level is probably, from a bench coach position, you know, when you think about competitive baseball, there's not that many levels where winning is the number one thing. Major League Baseball winning is the number one thing. College baseball winning is the number one thing.
Yep.
Some independent leagues winning is the number one, like the Atlantic League and Can-Am League. So in some ways, having a bench coach with college baseball experience can be more valuable than a bench coach who, say, was managing a AAA, AA, single A.
When you look at Matt Holliday, obviously the bench coach now for the Cardinals. His son was the number 1 draft pick. His other son is in college baseball. Can you think of another family that would contest the Holidays being the first family of baseball? Because right now they feel like the first family of baseball.
That's the Boone family is the first family that comes to mind. Aaron Boone, Brett Boone, so the Bell family is another family that's got some folks out there. So the Boones and the Bells. But if we get rid of all families that do not have their last name start with the letter B, yes, we can go Holiday.
I guess the Molina brothers for a while, right?
There's all different ways of doing it. You mentioned the Bells and the Boones. They go back like 3 generations each. So you've got the current iteration, and then you've got, like, for example, Bob Boone is the father of Aaron and Brett Boone. Well, his dad, Ray, was a major leaguer too.
Wow.
So, and that's kind of the same thing with the Bell family as well. So it just depends on how you want to categorize it. But if you're looking at modern times, the Holiday family very much tied in. Now, what I think is interesting, Matt, is you're getting a guy that had a long major league career as a really, really productive player, but who also happens to be really tight with Oli Marmol, the manager. Like, they've known each other for years. There's a major trust factor there. And that's an important thing for that job, because that job sometimes is telling the manager when he's wrong or when something might be different than he thinks. It's a spot where there may be times where you have to have that trust to disagree.
Yeah. So going back to what I said before, there's 2 ways to go that route. The way they went is somebody who is just incredibly, incredibly, incredibly trusted. And if they push back on something, they're pushing back for the right reasons. The other thing is that, the guy that just walks in with so much respect and so much experience, you can't do anything but kind of respect and honor, maybe some pushback. But those are the 2 ways to go. You don't want somebody with not a lot of experience who you don't have a very good relationship in the bench coach role. That would be the worst possible scenario.
So I know Matt Holliday has said in some interviews since the announcement came that he's probably going to have some contribution when it comes to the offensive side. I mean, obviously he was a hell of a hitter for a long time in the big leagues, and he was coaching hitters at Oklahoma State. He's obviously coached up his boys because Jackson was the number 1 pick in the draft, and his son Ethan's at Oklahoma State. So, he's got a track record of working on offense. So I'm sure he's going to contribute there. But Turner Ward getting the promotion from the assistant hitting coach to the hitting coach, not all that surprising. It seemed like he built up some trust in his first year here, but he's also got a long track record of being a well-respected hitting coach, including the long-time relationship with Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, he's been a big league hitting coach for Dodgers, Reds. Is there one more in there? Does Diamondbacks? I think it's 3 teams.
Yep.
Okay. So he's been a major league hitting coach, so he's been in that role. Something that John Mozeliak said during the playoffs was that he was really impressed about how the coaching staff all work together. And when all the announcements were made, a question that I actually had for him was, as you're making these decisions on the coaching staff, how important is it that you feel like, that everybody working together continues to be something that happens? And I think that's a really important thing when you're going through a 162 game season and it's an everyday type thing. Nobody needs their hand held. Everybody needs to be pulling in the same direction. Everybody needs to, pick up where the other person leaves off. So the Matt Holliday part of it, the Ward part, like just trying to figure out the best possible way to score the most amount of runs and getting everybody involved is obviously an important thing here. The other side of it is, and this goes with the decision on the pitching coach as well, obviously, and this is going to, probably stick with some Cardinals fans in the wrong spot, but obviously this team continues to embrace as much as they can analytics, data, video work, things like that. This is something that look at this staff, look at the ages of this staff member, the backgrounds of the staff members. This is an all-in analytics organization right now.
Well, welcome to joining the Dodgers, the Rays, the team that just won the World Series, the Astros. That I would view that as a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's better than all the other alternatives. Like I always get frustrated. Like something bad will happen, and you'll get the tweet analytics. Like, okay, so
that's like the famous saying, though, right? What is it? I forgot who it was. Thomas Jefferson or some founding father. Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the other forms of government.
Right.
Is that how you feel about analytics?
Yeah, I mean, you're taking data and you're using data. It's so frustrating. If a decision that you make is right 60% of the time and wrong 40% of the time, it's the right decision 100% of the time, even if it doesn't work, 40%. Like you're using the information, and that doesn't mean that there's not a gut feeling and those sort of things that happen during games. But you need to, as a manager, and I think the really good managers know this, they know that 99% of the time, if you follow along with the numbers say what you should do, you're going to be good. And then there's just those few opportunities where you can impact the game in a positive way. And I don't know how to evaluate Oliver Marmol on that yet. I think it's something that he's still learning. But any organization that doesn't use data to help them make decisions is an organization that's going to lose a lot of games.
So this is getting way ahead of ourselves unnecessarily, but do you think this step for Matt Holliday is step one in a multi-step process, or maybe just a two-step process to becoming a manager of a Major League Baseball team?
Well, there's a pretty good track record on Cardinals bench coaches becoming managers.
Yeah.
So
David Bell, Mike Schilt, obviously Ollie Marmol, Skip Schumacher.
Yeah, like that. All those it keeps happening. So probably, I think he needs a little bit more experience at this point. I think the difference between the guys we just mentioned and Matt Holliday is he doesn't really have he doesn't have any major league coaching experience. Now, we're seeing younger and younger and younger managers get hired in baseball, so maybe it doesn't matter quite as much. But I don't think Matt Holliday is going to be up for big league managerial jobs this time next year. I think we're probably a couple, 2-3 years away from that being a thing.
And I'm sure he's got to decide, too, if that's something he wants to do. I mean, because when you're that guy, and he's good at it, but the question is whether you want to do it. Do you want to deal with the interviews every day? Do you want to be the one that has to answer for every single thing? And again, that's part of kind of exploring this type of a job and seeing it up close. But I mean, he has to know it because as a player that was a star, he was certainly already somebody that was familiar with dealing with those things.
And he's going to have the opportunity to manage games. Marmol's going to get thrown out of games. He's going to be the guy making the decision.
Right.
Like he's going to get that experience.
No doubt about it. I should point out, you mentioned Dusty Blake is the new pitching coach who was within the organization as their pitching strategist. They promoted Brandon Allen from the minor leagues. He was with AAA Memphis as the hitting coach. He'll be the assistant hitting coach. He is the continuation of what they've implemented with Jeff Albert in terms of what they've done throughout the organization. So that's what you're talking about with something that still complements the younger guys that have been having success. And then they brought in Julio Rangel, who was a part of the Red Sox last year. He'll be the assistant pitching coach / bullpen coach. So those are the coaching changes. We'll look forward to hearing more about it and talking more about that as we get closer to spring training. I'm guessing you saw this earlier, Matt. If not, I'm sure you'll have a take on it anyway because you're a baseball guy. But we saw a little bit ago, maybe an hour and a half ago, the list of players that are now going to be voted upon by the modern era, the Contemporary Players Committee, the group of people that gets together, former coaches, managers, players, get together to vote on guys that are eligible now for the Hall of Fame that are not on the media ballot. They're not on the baseball writers ballot anymore, but they're now a part of this committee. So did you see the list?
I did not. I was on daughter duty today.
Okay, no worries.
I've not seen this list.
Well, it's okay. It's you're going to see where we're going in an instant because it's going to be an interesting test with Albert Bell, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Don Mattingly, Fred McGriff, Rafael Palmeiro, and Curt Schilling. That's the group of players that are up for consideration for the 2023 class for the what used to be called the Eras Committee, but it's now the Contemporary Players Committee.
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of guys there who are connected to PEDs.
Yep.
I think they're all. I just listening to them as you went along. All those guys to me are Hall of Famers. Maybe Fred McGriff. There's a question on. That'd be the first guy that I would maybe push back on a little bit. I think I'm a bit more inclusive when it comes to the Hall of Fame, and I get it's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Great, if you want to go with that cliche.
Sure.
But I hate when guys, we don't know who didn't get caught, and we don't know who was doing things way before anything was even like a public knowledge. So I'm of the belief that you look at the players' numbers and you don't look much beyond that, and that's how players should be evaluated for the Hall of Fame.
Matt, you are new to the KMOX family, and you might be the next Fred Bottomer. We were just celebrating Fred Bottomer's 40th year at KMOX. So I just want to let you know, if you indeed you are on the trajectory to be the next Fred Bottomer, that means you will take Fred's status in the year 2062.
And I'll be 80 years old.
Hey, listen, you got staying power, buddy.
You do. Just think of how much knowledge and experience you'll have by 2062.
You know, it was as I got here 4 or 5 months ago, Fred was one of the first people that I met, and talk about just a kind man who's got an amazing legacy at the station. It's so cool. And like, this doesn't happen. I guess it happens a little bit, but things like this don't tend to happen at other stations in the country. Like, people work at I'm one of them. I've worked at a million different places, and now I'm here and I'm not going anywhere, hopefully. So that's good. But the Fred being celebrated for that, he absolutely deserves to be.
Absolutely. All right, buddy. Enjoy the rest of the day. You got a short night tonight with Billikens basketball, right?
Yeah, like 45 minutes. We're going to have Coach Katie Shields on from the SLU women's soccer team. They've got their selection show at 3 o'clock today to find out where they're going to be dancing. They have a legitimate shot at an NCAA championship. They are that good. They've only lost once this year. All their metrics have them as, you know, a top 3, top 4 team in the country. So Coach Shields is going to be with us before we get to SLU basketball with Rammer and Earl.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you later on in the week. Enjoy the show tonight, and we'll be talking.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
You got it. Matt Pauley, host of Sports Open Line. And I mentioned, as he mentioned, short show tonight with Billikens basketball. This should be a good one, too. Murray State's good. The Billikens are really good. You might have heard Bob Ramsey on TIAM this morning. We've had Travis Ford on. Tom talked to Travis Ford not that long ago. They're really good. I mean, zero question in my mind, if they're healthy, they're a tournament team.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting some friends together. We're going to some Billikens game this year.
Yeah.
We're very excited.
Be a good time to find some time to get out to Chaffetz Arena. Speaking of time, what do you think of daylight savings time?
Well, this morning.
Don't do it yet. It's a tease, Amy.
Oh, sorry.
We're going to talk about daylight savings when we come back on the show.
Congress has authorized trillions in new spending, along with doubling the size of the IRS agency in just the last few months. Do you think that is by accident? No, it is with a purpose, to go after small businesses, employees, and individuals who have not filed or paid their taxes. If this is you, don't panic, just call. Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm in St. Louis. Interest and penalties on your tax bill won't stop until you take control. Call me, Lance Drury. I'll tell you in advance an affordable fee, which includes costs and expenses that works for your business and family. Your first visit to the Lance Drury Law Firm is free and confidential, so you have nothing to lose. Call me today. Remember, if you have IRS issues, you have legal issues. You need an attorney. You need us, the Lance Drury Law Firm. Call me, Lance Drury, at 314-260-6120. Or go to Lance, D-R-U-R-Y law.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
CertaPro commercial painters have powers beyond those of ordinary painters.
Power of minimal disruption.
We work with you to ensure a smooth project.
The power of making you look good.
Making sure it's done right, on time and within budget, so every property manager looks like a hero. That's CertaPro painters.
The power of pro.
Get your project started at CertaPro.com.
Each CertaPro painter's business is independently owned and operated.
Learn about the history and lessons of the Holocaust at the newly renovated St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum, reopening November 2nd. Membership and tickets for individual and group tours at stlholocaustmuseum.org.
Hi, Chris Saraceno for the Bartolino's family of restaurants, where we want to thank our veterans and active military who have bravely defended and continue to protect our freedoms. And thank you, our loyal guest, for the opportunity to serve you for over 50 years. In the traditions established by our mother and father, I'd like to invite you to one of our 4 restaurants. Bartolino South on South Lindbergh, Bartolino's Osteria at Hampton and 44, Chris's Pancake and Dining at the corner of Watson and Southwest, and Chris's at the Docket downtown on Tucker Boulevard, where our family awaits to serve you.
My uncle was a sergeant in the Chicago Police Department, and he loved being a Chicago police officer. He was with a patrol officer, Anthony Rosado, and on the evening of July 17, 1970, they were assassinated.
Gene Cable is still incensed more than a year after the Illinois Prisoner Review Board released convicted cop killer Johnny Veal for the 1970 Cabrini Green sniper killing of her uncle, Police Sergeant James Severin.
I never thought I'd see the day where convicted cop killers would be released on the streets and people would be okay with it.
For decades, Jean and her family had the support of governors and prosecutors, Democrats and Republicans, to keep her uncle's killer behind bars, until J.B. Pritzker.
We did not get any letters whatsoever from Governor Pritzker opposing parole. When you kill a police officer, it's an unforgivable crime. My message to the governor would be shame on you.
Punish J.B. Pritzker for releasing a cop killer. Paid for by people who play by the rules PAC.
Hi, this is Brian with Velocity Home Buyers, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-782-5555. I can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. I buy houses in any condition and any price range in the St. Louis area. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy more. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Do you own a house that needs updating, but you don't have the time or money for it? Great, because I love buying outdated houses. I buy vacant houses, behind on taxes houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at 314-782-5555. That's 314-782-5555.
Trish Gazelle for Ophthalmology Associates. For the best eye doctors, you need to see the doctors at Ophthalmology Associates. Online at yourEyeDoc.com or 314-966-5000.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 314-441-4444. Kevin, Amy, and Chris now.
Best friends together.
Dave Glover at 2 on KMOX.
All right, 12:53 on the show. Coming up after the news, we're going to be talking about the rise of HBO.
It's not
the way
television.
but the way that it changed TV. I mean, if you go back to the way that the things we watch now, the things we stream now, the shows that are the biggest, it kind of goes back to the roots of those types of shows on HBO in the 90s.
So
right?
what's funny is I was pretty young, right? In the 90s, I was 7, 8, 9 years old. And at the beginning of the 90s, and we didn't have cable. A lot of people didn't have cable yet in the 90s. A ton of people had it. We didn't. And in my mind as a kid, MTV and HBO were like the big bad stations.
They
like
were.
that's where the bad stuff was.
Oh, good stuff. That's where the best stuff was.
That's where this bad stuff was.
That's where the best stuff was for sure. Anyway, we got that coming up after the top of the hours. John Coblin is writer for the New York Times, and he's worked on this book for a number of years. Looking forward to that conversation. You like daylight savings time, Amy? I woke up Sunday and I'm looking at the clocks, and the clocks are different. Now it's weird now because we're in a time where like your phone updates automatically, right?
Yes.
So what ended up happening was I didn't take this into consideration. I actually did sleep the full extra hour because I had set my alarm. I got up at 11 o'clock on Sunday, by the way.
11 o'clock.
I got up at 11 o'clock on Sunday.
I had lived a million lives by 11 o'clock.
You were up for like 8 hours by then. You've already had 3 meals and run 72 miles. But actually, it turns out I actually really got up at noon to my body clock because of the clock going back. Daylight savings time, though, is a conversation. It's like, should we stick with it permanently? There are other arguments, including medical arguments. We should stick on standard time permanently. None of it bothers me one way or the other. Like, I don't care about the jump forward or the leap forward or the fall back. None of it bothers me ever. But I know it's a topic that has actually reached the halls of Congress.
It has. And here's the thing. I only have so much emotional bandwidth, and I don't have the emotional bandwidth to be upset or excited about this. It is what it is. Yeah, I don't really have a hot take other than I love that the sun is coming up earlier in the morning now. I think it's sad that it gets dark at 4:45. That's kind of sad. And I think we probably don't have super strong feelings, partly because we live in the middle of the country. I think if you were to go to standard time permanently in New York, the sun wouldn't come up until like 9:30.
Yep.
I could see how that would be kind of depressing.
But there are doctors that say that would be better for you. That our body clocks, our natural body clocks, are geared to be more along the lines of what standard time is than we are on that. Now, I only know what I read in articles. I don't know anything. All I know is that it very rarely has any effect on me that I feel. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that doctors can measure that I wouldn't know about. It just means it never really changes much for me. But you're right. That would. Now, for me, I wouldn't care. I would rather have the time at the end of the day. Like, I would rather have some sun after work, because before work or on the way to work or whatever, I don't care. I'm just driving. Or I'm just, if you're in New York, you're riding a train. Like, is it really that big of a deal?
I just think if you saw the sunrise, you would feel like it's 6:30 or 7. And when it's actually 9:30, that seems so late to me.
I don't ever want to see a sunrise.
I love the sunrise.
Nope. Pass.
It's my favorite.
I like the sunset, though. And if I'm like Ranji, if I'm seeing the sunrise, it's been a long night.
Eric was way behind on his taxes.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. I tried to make payments.
The IRS wasn't satisfied with Eric's efforts, so they came after him full force.
They're coming to put a lien and a hold on all my income, my home, my car. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
Then Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and their team of expert tax professionals took care of Eric's problem.
I owe $15,000, and now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything.
Take Eric's advice.
If you have a tax problem, you need to call Optima Tax now.
Call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right. Free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
KMOX, KECK HD2, K254CR, St. Louis.
The home of the Cardinals, KMOX. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
The pain was so bad, it felt like I was walking on knife blades. It took my life away. And my doctor recommended that I go to Good Feet. I took about 4 steps and started to cry. It was the first time that I had no pain. I'm not an actor. I want people to know, whether you're young or old, these are life-changing. I've tried the rest. The best is Good Feet. I'm ready to rock and roll, man. Let's go to the ballpark. We're going to Monster Jams. We're going camping. My attitude's changed. I'm a happier man. I'm like a regular dad now. The kids have seen that change and that confidence in dad, and they like the new dad.
Call 314-317-9494 or visit one of our 2 locations on Olive, Caddy Corner from TGI Fridays, or in Shiloh, Illinois, across from Deerbergs.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Individual results may vary. Consult your physician for medical conditions. Visit the website goodfeetstlewis.com. Come in and try the Good Feet feeling today. Comfort, energy, performance, and pain relief at the Good Feet store.
Mid-America's most trusted source for news. KMOX.
At 1 o'clock, it's sunny and 61 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun. Our top story this hour. On this, the last day to vote early, we're getting word on where turnout is heavy in the city of St. Louis.
This is Kevin Killeen outside the St. Louis Election Board, where they tell us so far in early voting, they are seeing some trends, heavier voter interest in South St. Louis. Lots of people showing up since October 25th when the early voting started at the Booter Branch Library. In the Central West End, they're seeing a drip, a steady turnout at the Schlafly Library. And in North St. Louis at the Julius Davis Library branch, a lighter turnout. Election day, 40 to 45% of registered voters expected to show up. The polls open at 6 and close at 7 at night.
We don't have a super competitive contest that we're going to be sweating deep into the night.
That's Dr. Terry Smith, a political science professor at Columbia College. He says there's only one thing that could be close tomorrow, the recreational pot initiative.
You know, I've been following that fairly closely, and I think early on, a lot of people thought that it was going to probably pass and by a comfortable margin. I'm not so sure anymore.
Smith says the opposition has been diverse. The complexity of the amendment and the argument over it being embedded into the Constitution has gotten traction. KMOX Sports, Cardinals manager Ollie Marmol reacts to Matt Holliday joining the team next season as bench coach.
This guy knows how to win, and he's devoted to it. He sacrificed his entire career to do it as a player. And although a good friend, this is a unbelievable baseball mind. He brings a lot to the table from that standpoint.
Holliday replaces Skip Schumacher, who's now the Miami Marlins manager. Cardinals home opener is 143 days away.
I was raised on KMOX.
Religion and health editor Fred Bottomer has worked at KMOX for 40 years. He tells Total Information AM he listened to KMOX greats growing up and then ended up working with them.
It was on every morning when I would get up and get ready for school. So I grew up listening to Bob Hardy and Rex Davis and Jack Carney and Jim White and all those great hosts. So, and then luckily when I got here, they were still here. So I got to work with all of them.
The First Mid Bank and Trust business desk, Twitter having second thoughts.
Twitter is now asking some of its fired workers to come back. Sources tell us that some of those who were asked to return were laid off by mistake. Others were let go before management realized their work and experience is necessary. Twitter cut close to 3,700 jobs last week. Courtney Donahoe, Bloomberg Radio.
The Dow from Stifel's up 341 points to 32,744. The weather sponsored by Penn Mutual Life Insurance Company.
KMOX AccuWeather, a sunny afternoon, but it's cooler than recent days. We'll get up to 63, down in the chilly 40s tonight, low to mid 60s tomorrow, and then warming up in the low to mid 70s for a couple of days before a much colder air mass comes in for the weekend. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Dean DeVore, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Times are always changing, but Penn Mutual stands the test of time. The 175-year Young Mutual Company is leading the way in life insurance. Ask your independent advisor. Go to pennmutual.com/STL. It's a sunny sky, 61 in Florissant, 61 St. Peter's, 61 downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444.
It's 104 on the show here on KMOX. Amy Mark scores. Kevin Wheeler with you here. Chris Rods will be back tomorrow. Now, I've been looking forward to this segment and this conversation since we first booked it, going back a week or two ago, because, well, I like HBO. I like the shows. I like what. I'm going to get maybe a little bit more detail than I can provide, because I'm just looking at this from an amateur fan of television shows that have followed kind of the path that was started by HBO back in the day. And that's why we have John Koblin on the line. Now, John is the co-author of It's Not TV, The Spectacular Rise, Revolution, and Future of HBO, a book that he wrote with Felix Judd. Of course, John also the TV reporter for the New York Times. You'll find him on Twitter at Koblin, Koblin. John, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it. How you doing?
Very good, and thank you for having me.
No, glad to do it. I mean, obviously, I think anybody, I'm 50 years old, John, so I'm in that generation that essentially grew up as HBO grew up, right? I mean, cable came into my house when I was 9, 10, 11 years old. HBO was one of those kind of, first companies, one of the first channels that was really big and bringing us like movies that you could usually only see in the theaters. And of course, that was right around the time that VHS technology was getting into your home as well. So I guess you could say I've been around since the beginning, which is partly why I'm so curious about the story.
You've literally been around since the beginning, because tomorrow HBO is celebrating its 50th anniversary. So yes, you and HBO are running in parallel track.
Well, we both have had the same amount of success too. It's been great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. HBO has sort of these different eras. Back in the 1970s and 80s, just as you said, look at the name, home box office.
Right.
What HBO did back then was program events that you would need a ticket for, whether that's a stand-up special or a concert or a Hollywood movie, which you would go out and buy a ticket for, or a boxing match. And then in the last 25 years, HBO has obviously revolutionized episodic television. So in those 50 years, it has had different identities, but it's been basically very successful the entire way through.
I know this is going back a few decades, but I was a young kid in the 80s. And I think it's just illustrative of the cultural magnitude that HBO had, that if you were on any type of road trip or driving down the road and you saw a hotel or a motel, the sign would say, "We have HBO." And I'm trying to think of another station or, channel or whatever that had that kind of impact. That's the draw. That's what they put on their outside signs.
Completely, 100%. I mean, it's so funny. HBO, back in those days, back in the 70s and the early 80s, it had to entice subscribers to pay a monthly subscription fee. That was a very, very foreign concept for decades. If you wanted content on the radio, if you wanted content on television, it was for free. So this is kind of unheard of. So HBO had to really come up with some novel ways to sort of subscribe or to entice subscribers into the service. And one way, talking to local hotels and saying, "Hey, put up an HBO sign and we'll give you a little something."
It's a good strategy, because I'm telling you, it worked on my family. It absolutely worked on my family, because it was also a sign that, yes, you had HBO, but it also meant you had cable as well, which was something at that time that it wasn't totally new, but it wasn't everywhere, right? It wasn't everywhere at that time like that type of programming is now. And what's fascinating to me, John, is that HBO was not only kind of a big pioneer in cable television, but it evolved through the satellite era and is now still running strong and one of the big deals in television now that it's branched off into streaming.
Completely. I mean, one of the things that interested me in this topic, and one of the reasons why we decided to write the book, HBO, we've seen television change so much in the last 25 years, and you can see it in two ways. One is literally volume. In 2002, there were something like 150 scripted shows in the U.S. That had broadcast that year. If you fast forward to last year, that's over 500 shows. That's a 5-time jump. The other thing we've seen in the last 20 years is television's gotten a lot better. You don't just see the same crummy, close-ended procedurals. It has now been elevated into this revered cultural art form. And HBO, it is a big reason why that happened.
When you look at the history of network television, it seemed a lot, and maybe for a while, to kind of lag behind culture a bit. It was always a bit more on the conservative side. You think of the old CBS shows and how they had this more traditional view of the United States. And then as we got into the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and you have HBO, HBO seemed to be on the forefront of the cultural shift towards more progressive ways of thinking or living. Is it fair to say that as far as the impact of HBO as a cultural monolith, it had more impact on culture and politics than probably any other cable network?
I think that's right. And I think it's just because of how it's changed all of television in terms of leaning in that direction. In those early days, HBO really differentiated itself by doing everything the broadcast networks wouldn't do, having no commercials, being able to use curse words, showing nudity. You were able to do all these things because they didn't want to be anything like the broadcast networks, because that was its selling point. That is how you are going to draw in subscribers. That is how you're going to get people to pay for the service. The other thing it did is it took a lot of producers and a lot of creators and said, Do the things here that you couldn't do on broadcast television. David Chase, the creator of The Sopranos, he went to Fox, he went to CBS, he went to ABC, he went to NBC with the idea of The Sopranos, and they all said no. One executive at CBS, as a matter of fact, he said, I love this mobster idea, but does he have to be in therapy? Does he have to be on Prozac? It makes him seem weak. Whereas when David Chase finally met with HBO executives, they told him, lean into that. We like the mobster in therapy angle. That's different. Give us more of that.
And of course, there's been so much since then that has done kind of that same thing where you've taken that step where others cannot go. Now, there's more people that can go there now, more outlets that can. And John Copeland is with us, by the way. He's the co-author of It's Not TV, The Spectacular Rise, Revolution, and Future of HBO, a book that he wrote with Felix Gillette. I know you guys took a number of years to put this together, John, and kind of what I wanted to get to next was that spurring of others to do the same thing, because HBO, I'm sure there were others that did some creative things. There were some network TV shows that pushed the boundaries back in the day, like NYPD Blue. There were some others that were cable stations, but not quite the HBO, Showtime, Stars type ones that did some things that were a little bit edgy. But it seems like HBO, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but they seem to be the ones that kind of push the boundaries to get people to go bigger and bigger, so that it's not just content you wouldn't get on TV, but it's movie quality content on those episode by episode basis.
Completely. And they were the driving force to get everybody else to do that as well, to get Apple TV Plus to do that, to get Amazon to do that, to get Netflix to do that, to get Showtime to do that. They sort of led the vanguard here. But the difference is, because everybody's kind of doing it now, HBO faces a lot more competition.
Yeah.
I mean, despite HBO's prowess, when you add it up with Discovery Plus, which they're both owned by the same parent company, I think it's something like 90 million or so streaming subscribers. Netflix, they have more than 220 million streaming subscribers. So there's a lot more competition. It's very ferocious. So HBO is not the only game in town anymore, but its success is the reason that there is so much competition.
HBO, as you mentioned, has had so much success and has been so groundbreaking historically. Have they had any major miscalculations as technology has changed the way consumers can choose entertainment options?
Definitely. They've had a lot of swings and misses, and not just on the programming front, but it took a long time for HBO to really embrace streaming technology. Netflix began its streaming service in 2007. That was a decade after Netflix was born, as we all remember, we would get a movie in the mail.
Right.
HBO was very reluctant to do that. As a matter of fact, in 2006, there were a few business executives at HBO out of their LA offices who came up with a proposal and wrote up a deck, a 35-page deck saying, we should buy Netflix. And once that was brought to the higher ups at HBO, they rejected it immediately. They didn't even let the conversation get off the ground. They're like, we don't want anything to do with them. Forget it. It would have been a low price point. It took HBO a long time to figure this out. It's kind of the innovator's dilemma, where you revolutionize something and then you get a little complacent. We saw this happen with Xerox. We saw this happen with Kodak. With that said, HBO has made the transition to streaming. It's been choppy. It's been difficult, but they have made it to the other side. It's just taken a number of years for them to get there.
John, is there something that you and Felix came across in researching this that might not jump out? Like, all of the things that I'm thinking of are things that I experienced. So I would say that to the average viewer that watches a lot of these shows, they're more obvious things. Was there any element of their success or any turn that they took that I don't want to say that surprised you, but maybe isn't as much discussed as these big things that we're talking about?
Many things, but the thing that was most surprising to me, and even though it was sort of hiding in plain sight, when HBO was doing everything it could in those early days to differentiate itself from broadcast networks, HBO's then chairman, a very influential guy in how HBO would run for the next few decades, he looked at broadcast television and said, I think they are mostly programming toward women. So we're going to take a different tack. We are going to explicitly program to men. And that is where you get yourself a lot of nudity, some boxing, some edgier movies. And I didn't realize it took HBO executives a long time, I'm talking decades, to sort of shake that off, to say to themselves, hey, we can also broadcast to women too. Even with the success of Sex in the City, they couldn't entirely wrap their heads around the fact that women wanted to watch HBO too. As recently as 2016, 57% of HBO's primetime lineup were men, 43% women. Last year, that was finally a 50-50 split because HBO executives have gone out of their way to broadcast shows like I May Destroy You or Mayor of Easttown or Big Little Lies or Insecure, shows with female leads.
This kind of goes along the lines with it having nudity or violence and being a bit edgier from the get-go. Obviously, started in the 70s, but really starts gaining momentum even to the 80s. Did it have any official pushback from the rise of the moral majority and Reaganism and Republicanism and that whole political side of things? Was there ever a clash between those groups?
There was the biggest clash that HBO faced was from the Hollywood studios who looked at HBO and saw it as a tremendous threat. So in the early 1980s, they all banded together, all the major studios, to create their own cable channel called Premiere. And that would have killed HBO, would have killed it, because HBO was its early programming. One person in the book told us it was each day we had Jaws on something like 40 times a day. we needed to recycle these movies over and over again. And all of a sudden, a judge decided, no, you can't do this. This is collusion. This is not good. This is antitrust. We don't like this. So as a result, the channel that all the studios were trying to create was effectively killed, and HBO was able to continue.
It's a fascinating story. I'm really looking into kind of getting into this with the book. I haven't had a chance. Obviously, it's just coming out. When you guys come out just this month, right?
Yes, 6 days ago. It came out on November 1st.
It's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. You can order it on Amazon if you'd like. Of course, everywhere bookstores or everywhere you can find books being sold. Ideally, we like the local bookstores when we get that opportunity. And of course, you can find a link to the books at your Twitter handle as well, at Koblin, at Koblin. There's a link where you can go straight to it with Penguin Random House and go straight to the publisher for that as well. John, I'm really looking forward to the book. Thanks for spending time with us. It's a fascinating story, and I think we might have to reach out again and go further on this because there's just so much more I want to get into, but I want to read the book first. So thanks for the time. I appreciate you doing this.
Thanks so much for having me.
You got it. That's John Koblin from the New York Times. He's their TV reporter. He and Felix Gillette wrote this book. I am really fascinated by this story because it's changed exactly how people watch, what people watch. And if I were to list like my favorite TV shows of all time, at least 3 or 4 of them are HBO shows.
Yeah, it does feel
it's
like
Deadwood, it's Game of Thrones, it's The Sopranos. And there's probably a bunch more. The Wire. And if I'm listing my top 10 shows, I bet 7 or 8 of them are HBO shows.
when it comes to movies or TV series, it does feel like HBO really set the standard for not cheesy productions, right? Like when it came to
movie quality.
Yes, movie quality, because now we take it for granted with Netflix and Peacock and all of these other streaming services. But HBO was the tip of the spear in that sense.
No doubt. All right, the couple things we still got to get to here. Amy Marks, of course, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Ron will be back tomorrow. Coming up after the bottom of the hour, we want to talk a bit about TikTok. Not so much the thing we touched on earlier with misinformation being spread there or whatever, but I guess the different versions of that product that the parent company puts out. One is the one here, very different from the one, for example, that's pushed out in China. We're going to get to that coming up after the news here on KMOX.
Well, the number one fence and deck contractor in the state of Missouri is family owned and operated and locally owned and operated, as they have been for over a half a century. And it's that staying power that has allowed them to build the reputation and to build the stability to become the number one fence and deck contractor in Missouri. And that is STL Fence Works. Russ and Carolyn Long opened up STL Fence Works in 1971, and now their son, Sean Timothy Long, well, he runs the company. Now, when we talk about being the number one fence and deck contractor, you may think, okay, that's nice to say, but what does that actually mean? Well, what it means is that during times of inflation, during times of supply shortages and supply chain issues, you can rely on STL FenceWorks to meet your needs. They have more materials and supplies on hand right now than they've had at any other time in their 50-year history, which means they can get your project done in a timely manner and they can do so in a way that saves you money. They can continue to pass the savings on to you. And of course, their lifetime warranty surpasses anything else offered in the industry. Visit them today at stlfenceworks.com.
For everything online, it's Odyssey.com. Download the Odyssey app and listen to KMOX for all the news, sports, talk, and podcasts that move you. Odyssey, that's AUDACY.
Tom Ackerman sees clearly thanks to Doctors Birdie and Mahotra. You can too. Go to yourEyeDoc.com today or call 314-966-5000.
Paid for by Blaine for Congress.
I'm Blaine Luetkemeyer, and I approve this message.
We've seen some price increases. Some folks have raised worries that this could be a sign of persistent inflation, but that's not our view.
Reality is, inflation is now at a 40-year high, costing the typical family over $700 more every month just to stay even. That's the Biden extremist tax you pay every day. You pay it at the gas pump because of the extremist war against American energy, shutting down pipelines and using red tape to stop new development. You pay it in the devastation in your retirement account. You pay it in the border crisis and out-of-control crime wave. And now, they've driven America into a recession. Our most powerful weapon to stop them is our vote. It's in our hands to stop the damage they're doing to our families and America. November 8th, vote.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No. We tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our client's best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
All right, funny story today. What happened at the office? I was trying to shred. It didn't do it. There was no noise. It wasn't doing anything. And Michelle, who is works in the office, she is truly a great employee. She goes, oh yeah, but sometimes if you shake it, she got up, she walked over and she shook it. She goes, now try it. And I put the document in and it worked. And she goes, see, there, fixed. That's the reason she's in the office and she's not one of my techs. That is true. So today, Wednesday, I'm gonna make this month every Wednesday. It's gonna be Michelle Day. Keep up the good work. Now, if you do need something fixed, it will not be Michelle that will be coming out. It'll be me and one of my great techs. So call me, Bart Inman. One easy number in Missouri and Illinois. Just this one number and one name. 314-293-2600 or bartinman.com.
All the news and all that matters to you. The voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
All right, before we get to the TikTok, because everybody, anything new is scary, and we're going to get into that coming up after the bottom of the hour news. But we were just talking about this off air, and we haven't really had a chance to get into it yet. So we're going to spend 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you the question: can the Blues win tonight?
I think you said, are the Blues going to win a game?
Are they going to win another game? I think is what I was kidding by saying that.
And I said, no.
Yeah.
And I was kidding.
So they've got a 6-game losing streak. I think franchise record is 7 games, right?
Yeah, they're tied for last in the NHL, and they are last in the Western Conference.
And they are on the road against the best team in the NHL tonight, the Boston Bruins.
Which, you know how things roll. This could be the time for them to get that rando victory.
It would be, wouldn't it? Yeah. You're going against the Bruins on the road. That's when you get your goofy win.
But it's not looking good. And Kevin, I think you hit the nail on the head. If the Blues can't turn things around, we might see some shaking up.
Yeah. And I was really happy. I know we touched on this briefly last week, but probably not enough. But I was really happy that Doug Armstrong came out and said, look, I'm not firing the coach. We're not firing the coach. The coach is the same guy that we won the Stanley Cup with. You guys that are being paid to play need to play better. We do too much in sports. We spend too much time blaming coaches, firing coaches, blaming hitting coaches. I mean, look, the guys that get paid millions of dollars a year to play because they're good just need to be good. Like if you're being paid a certain amount of money, it's because you have a track record of performance.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get a good salary. You don't get paid if you don't have a track record. And it's as simple as this. The Blues need to play to their contracts. The guys that have contracts just need to play at a level that shows you why they have that deal. Jordan Kyrou is a young guy. He's developing. I get it. But you just got a new deal. You've established yourself enough to get a long-term deal. You can't be minus 15.
Yeah.
I know plus minus is imperfect, but minus 15 in 9 games tells a story. It tells a real story.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about a team that has won, that was good last year, we're not talking about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This group right here, with one pretty notable change without David Perron, but you can't tell me this is all about David Perron. As good as he is, it's not all about David Perron. There's no reason why collectively it should be this way. And the only way to fix it, if they can't fix themselves, is to change the roster.
Right. Yeah. And again, like you said, Doug Armstrong made it very clear that if things were to change, it wouldn't be at the head coaching position. Ryan O'Reilly has said he has played terribly. That's Ryan O'Reilly always gives an honest assessment of himself, of the team. He's not playing well.
You think it's bad when that one of the highest paid players on the team, who's the captain, has 1 point in 9 games?
That sounds very bad.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
And again, I love Ryan O'Reilly. Great guy. Helped win the cup. But again, that doesn't matter now. What matters is, how are you performing? How are you doing your job right now?
And it is interesting when you look at the group of players, and it almost seems inexplicable that all of them are playing so horribly all at once. And of course, we know it can switch on a dime. Everybody has said the phrase, well, we know what happened in 2019, worst to first. But there were also some extraordinary developments that happened that year. New coach, new goaltender, all of these things that happened mid-season that you're not going to necessarily count on new head coach and a new goaltender in the middle of this year. But the Blues, they have to be better. They can be. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, when you have a group that has won together and most of them are still together, it's on you guys to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no excuses. It's not the coach. You can't blame that. You know what your job is supposed to be, and you're being paid to do it because you've proven you can. So go do the job.
Hey, this is Charlie Brennan. Well, if you've lived in St. Louis for a long time, you know that weather plays havoc on the outside of your home. And that's why Banner Construction specializes in the best James Hardie fiber cement siding and Pella replacement windows. When you refresh your home's exterior with Banner Construction, you'll not only optimize your curb appeal and market value, you'll have the best looking home in the neighborhood. James Hardie is unmatched for its weather resistance, its toughness, and its beauty. And as a preferred James Hardie contractor, Banner is basically a St. Louis institution. If you need to replace your windows, remember that Banner is also a Pella Platinum certified contractor. You'll get the optimum in installation and energy efficiency. Don't settle for less than the quality craftsmanship that you get from Banner Construction. 314-569-1050 and check out the beautiful videos of Banner craftsmanship at bannerconstruction.com.
KMOX News Time is 1:28. Donate a car, get a tax receipt, and tickets to the St. Louis Aquarium at mersgoodwill.org.
Let's talk real estate for a minute. The St. Louis market is kind of tricky for home sellers right now, with home values going down and not selling as quickly. Now is not the time to risk losing precious equity on your home. This is Debbie Monterey, and I always recommend calling Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria's the best. She's experienced every type of market, both good, great, and the not so good. So before you list your home for sale, call Gloria, and here's why. Gloria Liu will guarantee to sell your home at your agreed-to price and time frame, or she'll buy it herself, guaranteed in writing. Gloria already has the buyers, thousands of buyers in her database. In fact, your home may already be sold. Gary and Angela called Gloria and sold their home even before it listed because Gloria had several buyers looking for a home in that area. Call Gloria Lou today at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or find her online at gloriahasthebuyers.com.
At 1:30, it's sunny and 62 degrees downtown at the Arch. St. Louis County is acknowledging its outdoor warning sirens went off early this morning, hours earlier than the scheduled test. A message posted after 7 a.m. said the sounding was an accident. There was no emergency. The 11 a.m. test proceeded as planned. Apple is warning customers they'll have to wait longer to get its latest iPhone models after antivirus restrictions were imposed on a contractor's factory in central China. Superheroes at the box office.
Black Adam topped the box office for a third straight weekend with $18.5 million in ticket sales. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever lands in the theaters this week, and it's expected to score one of the biggest opening weekends of the year. Courtney Donahoe, Bloomberg Radio.
Right now, we've got some debris on 6440 going east at the Missouri River. The center lanes are closed. There's a stall on 55 North before Broadway. That's on the right shoulder. And the forecast this afternoon, plenty of sunshine, high 63 degrees, some clouds and chilly. Tonight with a low 40 to 45 degrees. For tomorrow, sun and clouds, seasonable with a high of 64. And as we move toward Wednesday, it'll be warmer, mix of sun and clouds, and a high of 74 degrees. Right now, it is a sunny sky, 61 in Florissant, 61 in St. Peter's, and 62 degrees downtown at the Arch. Sponsored by Michael's Flooring Outlet, the flooring experts, michaelsflooringoutlet.com. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Driven by the Bomarito Automotive Group, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Well, we all know the past few years have been pretty tough for business owners. We've got the COVID restrictions and the shutdowns and the supply chain issues. Well, I've got good news. If you have a company with 5 or more employees and you've managed to survive the past couple of years, you could be eligible to receive a payroll tax rebate of up to $26,000 per employee. Now it's at getrefunds.com. getrefunds.com. The team of tax attorneys they have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program and have already returned $1 billion to businesses, and they can help you too. They do all the work with no charge up front. They simply share a percentage of the cash that they get for you. Now, you may think, I don't know if my business will qualify because I took PPP or I actually saw an increase in sales. Nope, you still could be eligible. To find out if your business qualifies, just go to getrefunds.com, click on Qualify Me, and answer a few questions. Getrefunds.com.
Re-elect Mark Harder, your West County voice on the St. Louis County Council for District 7.
I will continue to make your voice heard in St. Louis County government for a safer community, a better place to raise our children and run our businesses. I will continue to fight corruption and waste in county government like I have been doing for the past and current administration.
Mark Harder is endorsed by the largest police associations in the region and many West County leaders. Learn more at harderforcouncil.com. Vote smarter, vote harder on November 8th.
Paid for by citizens to elect Mark Harder, Chuck McCluskey, Treasurer.
Celebrating one amazing career, 40 incredible years on the voice of St. Louis. Congratulations, news reporter Fred Bottomer, from all of us at KMOX.
In their version of TikTok, if you're under 14 years old, they show you science experiments you can do at home, museum exhibits, patriotism videos, and educational videos. And they also limit it to only 40 minutes per day. Now, they don't ship that version of TikTok to the rest of the world. So it's almost like they recognize that technology is influencing kids' development, and they make their domestic version a spinach version of TikTok, while they ship the opium version to the rest of the world.
That's Tristan Harris on 60 Minutes. Tristan Harris is the co-founder of Humane Tech. He also used to work for Google. He lists himself as former Google design ethicist. He was talking on 60 Minutes about TikTok. And the parent company of TikTok is a company called ByteDance. And he's very clearly there describing the version of TikTok that is consumed by kids in China versus what's available for anybody basically here.
To be honest, I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was a different version of TikTok in China. Now, I assumed, of course, that it would be censored when it came to political or moral posts. Obviously, we have tons of political posts. We have news sources on TikTok. And I figured those would be overseen, censored, taken down, erased by the CCP. What I didn't realize is that they were also censoring the mindless videos, the silly videos, so that, again, if you're under 14 years old, you're seeing science experiments, museum exhibits. He goes on to say that there was a survey of preteens in the US and China asking, what is the most aspirational career that you want to have? In the United States, the number one answer was social media influencer. In China, the number one answer was astronaut. He said, quote, again, you allow those two societies to play out for a few generations. I can tell you what your world is going to look like.
Oh, good. So tell me what else is in the future. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when I was 12, I wanted to be a baseball player or a sportscaster. I wasn't thinking about being a scientist. I wasn't thinking, and none of these things existed. So I don't know that we can judge a whole lot, because I mean, kids have always thought about being able to do cool things that they like as a career. I don't know many preteens that are like, you know what? I want to be an accountant.
Okay, so
I want to
is,
study biomechanical engineering. I mean, when you're a kid, when you're 10, 11, 12 years old, you're typically thinking, what are the things I like to do now? And boy, I would like to do that for a job.
what's funny is I think when I was a preteen into early years of high school, every generation has its popular answer. I know right now it's YouTuber or social media influencer. A lot of the kids that I taught, they would say, oh, I want to be a YouTuber. For whatever reason, if you were a millennial, I feel like a lot of millennial kids at one point wanted to be a marine biologist. That was the hot answer. I don't know why. And I can tell you right now, I never wanted to be a marine biologist, and I'm pretty sure I said it.
I mean, like that. To me, look, I think there are a couple of different discussions here.
Yeah.
Okay. One of
There
them
are.
is that is a tremendous leap to make.
Except,
That's
I mean,
saying that
American
kids
kids
wanna
are
do-
falling behind for other
That's
reasons.
a different, right.
Yeah.
But that's a different argument. They're not falling behind because of TikTok. They're not falling behind because of social media. They're not falling behind because a lot of kids want to do what they think is cool and will make them a lot of money. Because by the time they're 17 or 18, most of them are going to realize, well, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to college to become a lawyer. I'm going to go become an architect. I'm going to be a fireman. I'm going to be a policeman. I'm going into the military. Like, when you're 12, you're a dreamer. I would be nervous if most 11 and 12-year-olds were just like, yep, I just want to do ordinary, regular work. Like, everybody at that point, that's when you are a dreamer, right?
Yes.
What
Well,
were you dreaming about at 11 and 12? What did you want to do?
every year I changed. Before I was 12. So I went from wanting to be a jockey in the Kentucky Derby.
Okay, good. There you go.
to I wanted to be a quarterback in the NFL.
Okay, but you
because,
weren't like 11 or 12 when you thought that, right?
I was 11 to
Because
12.
they were talking about the preteens, right? They're
Yeah.
talking about people that are just, and also preteens are not logical people.
Yes. No, jockey was like 10, 11, and then 11 to 12 was NFL quarterback, and then private detective. And yeah, those were the big ones.
So what I'm saying is, while a large number of kids now might look at influencer as a viable career, first of all, because it is for a lot of people, not for a huge percentage. It's like saying you want to be a baseball player. It's like saying you want to play in the NHL. It's like saying you want to be an actor, or you want to be, a pop star. Those things are very low percentages, but they're always things that people dream about. My sister wanted to be a dancer her entire life, and she was a great dancer, a highly competitive dancer. Was she wrong for prioritizing that or wanting that to be the career rather than being an astronaut?
So here's what I don't like about the comparison that he made. If you make a bit of a jump, I think sometimes we get focused on the jump, saying, well, of course, kids, when they're 12, they want to be all of these different things. You're a dreamer. You want to play Major League Baseball. Like me, you wanted to be in the NFL or be a jockey or be an artist, whatever it is. Yes, that is the age at which you dream. I think it was a bad jump to illustrate a very real point, though, which there's a reason why the TikTok videos, rightly or wrongly, are being so censoriously operated in China.
Ooh, big word.
Big word. And the same reason, in the same way that there's a reason that Steve Jobs and other tech giants didn't let their kids have iPhones and iPads.
Okay.
It's like, what do you know?
What's the reason why this company has two different standards for a product that they put out? Why does ByteDance have a China version and a U.S. version?
Well, when we're talking about for kids, you're talking about not politically, but you're speaking about for 14 and under.
What we're talking about here with
they believe
kids.
it has detrimental effects on children.
Who?
ByteDance and the government.
It's the government.
Well,
do we
it's
want the
one and the
United
same.
States government deciding that?
No, we don't.
Oh.
I'm not saying I'm
I don't mean you, by the way. I'm just kind of like reacting to this story because this idea that they're selling spinach to the kids in China and opium here, they're doing over there what they're told. They're doing what they're told by a regime that does not allow you to do anything else.
And I agree that the answer is not to have it censored here. There's a lot of reasons not to be on TikTok. I would say it's not the government's job to tell a kid you can't be on TikTok or to decide what they can and can't see. That would be the parents. Be a parent, watch your kids, make sure they're doing their schoolwork. I understand that social media is a particular challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because kids want to be on it, but you have to be a parent. And it's not the government's job to moderate what your kid is watching all day long. I do think it's an acknowledgement that what we already know, social media is harmful to kids. Instagram, Facebook have the information.
Can be.
Is
very strong.
Because it's never there. I would say when you look at the data and you look at every socioeconomic level, every education level, and these are global studies in the UK, in Sweden, in the United States, in France. We are seeing a trend among kids who spend time on social media that it has detrimental effects. The effects that are detrimental far outweigh the effects that are positive, specifically on young girls. So we know that. We that's, something that has been replicated over and over again, even when you account for education level, 1 or 2 parent households, all of these different things, socioeconomic, it can be very detrimental to the point that it's where we should be asking ourselves, do we need to have more moderation of social media accounts? Should it be the government? No. But should Facebook and Instagram try to do what they can to say you have to be a certain age? Some people have said you have to add age limits. Any kid can lie.
Yeah.
We know that.
Here's the thing that I'm really pushing back on. It's not you. It's partly the message that's going on here from in this case, it's Tristan Harris. And I don't believe that he means anything bad. I think he sounds like he's doing good work. He's got some really interesting ideas to go along with this. But this idea that it's any more dangerous than any other thing. Because everything is dangerous if it's overdone.
But not everything is equally as addicting.
Not necessarily, no. But I mean, when we
These
talk
were
about
designed to psychologically compel you, right? These were
so is every bit of advertising you see on TV.
For
it's
sure.
all based on psychology. It's
But
all
you could
based
say
on
that-
what our minds see when an image pops on screen.
But you could say that playing soccer all day is not healthy because you need to do school. But when we're talking about psychological effects and what it does to your brain, social media is designed to keep you engaged, to make it very difficult to disengage.
Sure. And this is where we all come in.
Yes.
Right? I mean, when you're raising your kids, you do need to be paying attention to what you're doing. But in that sense, I want to be clear. I don't think it's anything more than all of the other things you need to be paying attention to. It is one of those things. But we've gone through this a million times, and I know I come back to the same thing. But we have had these, panic's not the right word. We've had these fears over new things when they come in for centuries. I mean, I always go back to the Pessimist Archive because it's a great spot on Twitter where you can look at all of the research they've done, newspaper stories, columns, headlines, research papers going back 150, 200 years. That show people having these same kinds of concerns and panic symptoms about books. Kids reading too many books, and it's taking them away from what they need to be focused on. We've seen this for bicycles, for handheld mirrors, for cars, comic books, rock and roll, video games. It's always something, and all of those things can be threats. They can all be difficulties. which is why you have to pay attention to what your kids are doing and what you're into and help them kind of navigate it. If they're on their own in any of those things,
But here's my
they're not going to do well.
I understand that for sure. What is it called? The archive, the cynics,
The Pessimists
the
Archive.
pessimists archive. My slight pushback to that is our concern about something is completely irrelevant to the magnitude or credibility of that threat. How much we're concerned about it has nothing to do with the actual threat that it poses. For instance, I'm sure at one point we were very afraid of muskets and the type of damage a musket could inflict. And we were also very afraid of nuclear war.
Right.
I think it's fair to say that one of them does actually pose a greater threat, that nuclear weapons ultimately pose a greater threat. In the same way
You
that we
could
were
also argue, though, that the advent of the nuclear weapon has prevented another world war.
No, you could.
Because that threat is a line that nobody wants to cross.
But that's my point. The same thing with smoking. We were not afraid of smoking and it was dangerous, but we weren't afraid of it at all. Now we're like, oh, wait a minute, this is actually bad. The threat has always stayed the same, regardless of our reaction to it. So let's say level 10, this is arbitrary, whatever level 10 means. Let's say level 10 is dangerous and nothing else is dangerous except for level 10, or everything is, moderate. If we are afraid for 1 through 9, our response is wrong, but it doesn't change the actual threat of level 10. So then when level 10 hits, we should actually be afraid of that threat. And you could say, well, look we were afraid of 1 through 9 and that was fake. Therefore, level 10 is not a worry. At some point, these threats have their own credibility, on their own merit, and our response to them, whether we fear them or not, has no impact, no bearing on the actual threat they pose. So whether or not we're afraid of social media has no impact on if it actually is doing psychological damage.
Actually, we can actually push people to overreact to something that may not be as big a deal as we make it out to be.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Our reaction has no impact.
You blow something up into something that it's not.
But ultimately, our reaction has no impact on the threat that it poses. If social media is doing psychological harm and we're not afraid of it, it's still doing psychological harm. If it's doing psychological harm and we are afraid of it, it's still doing psychological harm. We can overreact or underreact. It doesn't change the credibility of the threat.
Does impact how you handle things.
Sure.
So when you overreact to something,
Mhm.
and again, I'm speaking in this case, thinking as a parent, when I make something a bigger deal than it really is, I'm now changing what that thing looks like to my kid.
Yes.
Right? So our reaction does impact how this whole thing goes. When it's the same, we've talked about this it's the same in politics. When people overreact on election fraud and people start to spread these things that are not true. The truth is the truth. It's right over there sitting there in the corner waiting for somebody to pay attention to it. But the reaction is causing all kinds of other actions that are leading to another different place that's also not a good place.
Right, but notice how it doesn't change the truth about the election. That truth is still sitting there.
No, but it changes how people experience
It does.
things.
So my argument would be, I think we should be more afraid of social media.
I would say you should be afraid of anything that can be disruptive to the development of a young human. And by afraid, I shouldn't say afraid. I don't think you should be afraid of anything. You should be aware. Being aware of everything and paying attention.
Mhm.
That's the hard part, is paying attention to what's going on. We got a bunch of reaction on this on the text line. We'll hit those when we come back on the show.
When you vote tomorrow, be sure to finish your ballot and vote for your judges. Missouri's judicial system gives voters the final say in retaining their judges. So know your judges before you vote. Visit yourmissourijudges.org and learn about the nonpartisan judges up for retention this year. That's yourmissourijudges.org. It's up to you to help make sure we have skilled, fair, and impartial judges. Know your judges and finish the ballot proudly. Visit yourmissourijudges.org.
Paid for by the Missouri Bar, Misha Epps, Executive Director.
Is your bank, brokerage, or your insurance company telling you to buy an annuity? They may have limited access to the best rates available. You need solutions, not someone pitching you a specific product. Call for your complimentary retirement and income book at 844-513-SAFE. That's 844-513-7233. And also join me, Ben Coons, for the Retirement and Income Radio Show, heard here every Saturday at 3 p.m. on KMOX Radio.
Hello, I'm Senator Carla May, and I'm asking for your vote. However, there are a few things I need you to know. A photo ID is required to vote in person, and it can't be expired. That means a Missouri driver's license or a state ID, a military ID, including a veteran's ID card, a United States passport, or some other Missouri or federal ID. Also, make sure you know where you're going to cast your vote. And remember, early voting starts Tuesday, October the 25th. Come on, we can do this. I'm counting on you.
This is paid for by Citizens for Carla May.
The federal government is hiring 87,000 new IRS enforcement agents. Make no mistake, with spending out of control, they're looking to collect revenue. The first target will be you. If you have not paid your taxes or filed them in years, let me help you get that target off your back. Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm here in St. Louis. So if you have unfiled returns, wage levies, bank levies, or tax liens, now's the time to call the Lance Drury Law Firm before the IRS calls you. Your consultation is free, so don't put it off. The Lance Drury Law Firm focuses solely on tax resolution law. It's all we do. And if you have IRS problems, you have legal problems. Let us use our tax law resolution experience to guide you and work on your custom resolution plan. Call now. It's free and confidential. Call me, Lance Drury, at 314-260-6120 or go to LanceDruryLaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Yes, with inflation, interest rate increases, and a possible recession looming, we are no doubt facing uncertain times in the housing market. But as a realtor with over 20 years of experience, I can tell you, if you're thinking of selling your home, now more than ever, you need a realtor to help you through these times while saving you money. Hi, I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty, and we offer all of this for only 4%. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444.
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
Hey guys, Glover here for my friends Mark and Neil Gelman from the GelmanTeam.com. If you want immediate cash for your home or to see what your home is actually worth in today's market, find out for free from the local experts. That's my friends Mark and Neil Gelman at the GelmanTeam.com.
Home Sweet Home mission is to give underserved families a sense of pride and to improve the quality of their lives by providing basic household furnishings. To learn more, go to homesweethomestl.org.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444.
You know that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this.
The show on KMOX.
All right, so we got a bunch of reaction on the last topic when it comes to social media and the impact that it's having, but in particular, the TikTok and the two different versions, the one that that the parent company puts out in China, for example, and the one that we get here. And we had a bunch of reaction just on how this goes. I mean, we had 636 texted in and said, hey, that expert mentioned, quote, Patriot videos that those younger kids in China get to see on their version of TikTok. He said, aren't those just CCP propaganda?
Oh, yeah.
Which, yeah. So you're not getting all the other stuff that American kids are, but you're just getting brainwashed by the Chinese
and I hope
government.
People understand. We're not saying, I'm not saying TikTok should be censored. I'm just saying it's a messed up app.
It's important and here's one of the problems and why these things become scares, whether it's books, comic books, rock music, video games, automobiles, like all these things that are new. What ends up happening is that the adults, the parents, the grandparents are less familiar with them than the kids. So it's intimidating to get involved. And I'm saying get in because you do need to understand it. And that's the best way to monitor it is to do those things yourself. We got a couple other examples of things that are different in other places. 314 says, for example, Nutella is different in the UK than what you put on the shelves here. Like the composition of it is different based on their taste standards or based on their own, the ingredient standards can be different in different countries too.
I agree with that. I feel like it's a little bit different than what we're talking about with TikTok. But yeah.
No, it's the same. I mean, it's a similar idea, but you're right. It's a different overall impact.
We're talking about the psychology of it.
Right. There are a lot of things allowed in the U.S. that are not allowed around the world, according to 314. And that's why America has some of the unhealthiest kids. I wouldn't go that far either because there are a lot of other countries that are allowing those same things that don't have people that are as unhealthy.
Yes. And
I mean,
there are a lot
much
of countries...
Europe, for example, has the same freedoms that we do, same access to things that we do, but they're not as unhealthy as we are.
Yes, and the UK is getting unhealthy. Australia is unhealthy, and But you're right. For instance, like wheat thins, they can't sell wheat thins in Israel, or they have different ingredients and different cereals in the EU than they do in the US. Again, I think to me that's a totally different conversation. I'm talking about the psychology of social media. One, I think TikTok is messed up, and man, the CCP is getting a lot of information about the average American through TikTok. They're babysitting the kids, and that's not the government's job. If the parents should be watching the kids.
Yes. All right. So we may not have time for this one, but this was an interesting text that we got, Amy, from the 314. It says, I think there should have been more pushback to the notion that it has a bigger effect on young females than males. This to the texter says, that's an American bias that has no place and does nothing to move the needle with the conversation.
That's actually false. I've got the receipts on that.
It says young minds are all in those growth phases, and we're not Smurfs. So why do we talk about the female brain as though it's naturally underdeveloped? And by the way,
I don't know what
I don't think that was said. I don't know if that's a man or woman, but I don't think that that's what it said or what was said. But I mean, what Amy's citing is just research done by people who study these things professionally
and globally.
And again, it's not that research hasn't been that it's not that every bit of research is gospel truth. There are times when there are bits of information that change over time, things that are, but we're not citing opinions. We're not just talking about some dude said on TikTok.
So right. And this is why to the texter, because again, I don't say things without receipts. Right now, the receipts I have in front of me linking negative impact of social media on young girls, specifically 11 to 13, is Oxford University, Northwestern, the Smithsonian. It's also in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and the Mayo Clinic. So these are some like reputable names.
Right. And again, it doesn't mean that evaluations over time don't change on things, but that's what we have at the moment. And again, they're not just people making things up, and it's not just some dude on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can revisit a lot of these things another day, get Ron into the mix as well. So much here you can't really cover in a short amount of time. Thank you for the text messages. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us as well. Amy, we got to let Ron back in tomorrow, so just prepare yourself mentally.
Okay.
Because he's back tomorrow. You all right?
I guess so.
For now. You got a few hours to worry about it. Dave Glover Show coming up next on KMOX.
Bring your family to the 4th annual Moolah Festival of Trees to experience a winter wonderland with over 40 exquisitely decorated Christmas trees with amazing gift packages November 19th through 26th at the Moolah Shrine. Purchase